Maid Park in Houston, Texas. Fox Sports Houston brings you Houston Astros baseball. Tonight, the Astros open a 3-game series with the Chicago Cubs. Good evening, everybody. Bill Brown and Jim DeShays. The Astros and the Cubs meet for the first of 15 games against each other this year. JD, the Astros 3-2 on this homestand, and we have two premier pitchers with what they're doing lately.
Indeed, we do. The Astros dropping 2 out of 3 from the Rangers over the weekend. The Cubs were just swept by the White Sox in the matchup of the North and South Side and Chicago. So a good pitching matchup here tonight. Matt Garza, hard-thrown right-hander, goes for the Chicago Cubs. And for the Astros, it's Bud Norris. He's the guy you want on a hill. He's been very good when pitching after an Astros loss this year, and he's been outstanding in the month of May. An 0.47 ERA in May for Bud Norris. Dale Swaim, the new manager of the Cubs, has loaded his lineup with left-handed bats, but that really hasn't been a problem for Bud this year either.
Well, and with Garza, with that low ERA, as he pitches for the Cubs in his second season with them, he can be awfully tough to hit as well.
Right, so I anticipate a low-scoring game today. The Cubs are 12th in the league in runs scored. They haven't pitched particularly well, but obviously Garza is a different animal. He can be awfully tough. He has a no-hitter on his resume, a 10-game winner for the Cubs last year. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
Coming up tonight, it's the Astros and the Cubs in the first of 3 from Minute Maid Park in Houston in just a moment.
The Hyundai
Astros baseball on Fox Sports Houston is brought to you by the Progressive Insurance Group. For a money-saving car insurance quote, call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE today. Well, Minute Maid Park will be the site of the first of the final season of games between the Cubs and the Astros in the National League, but you can't tell the players without a program. JD and Brownie will be talking about that throughout the night. There are a lot of new Cubs, and it's been rough going for them so far. Bud Norris will be on the mound. He made his major league debut against the Cubs. That was his only relief appearance. Now, however, he's going to try to go more than the 6.1 innings, which is his high against the Cubs in the past. To call the action, let's go to the booth. Here's Bill Brown and Jim DeShays.
Thank you, Greg. And we get to the starting lineup for the Chicago Cubs, managed by Dale Swaim, now brought to you by Hyundai. The leadoff man is the right fielder, David DeJesus. And the center fielder is Campana batting second. He's followed by Castro at shortstop, Lahair at first base, Soriano in left field, Stewart at third, Adrian Cardenas the second baseman, Coy Hill the catcher, and the pitcher is Matt Garza.
The Cubs come into this ballgame having dropped 6 in a row. And as Greg mentioned, a lot of new faces, a lot of unknowns for this Cub club, especially out in that bullpen.
Yeah, that's going to be the unknown commodity, isn't it? Without Marmol, who was shaky when he was active, now they have a guy with a heavy sinker in Dolis. We haven't seen him yet.
And their 8th inning guy was Kerry Wood. He just retired the other day. Of course, he was not having a good year. But it's a lot of changes for Dale Swaim and the Cubs as they try to sort things out here. And the Astros try to take advantage of the Cubs, who are scuffling right now. Bud Norris this year 4-1 with a 3.58 ERA as he strides to the mound. Just a brilliant month of May going for Bud. 0.47 ERA. He's 3-0 here in the month of May.
Well, he'd love to keep that going for a little while, and certainly with what he's been able to do, go deeper into games, and that was evidence last time out when he went 7 innings for the second time this season. His stuff seems to be awfully crisp, but also maybe a little more variety for him this year, JD.
Well, yeah, you know, that's kind of been an ongoing theme with Bud, the changeup that he worked on in spring training. Some starts he uses a little bit more than others, but still you're going to see primarily a power game from him. Fastball, hard slider. He likes to throw that slider down and in towards the back foot of the left-handed hitters. The velocity has been good. It's been consistent all year long. He's allowed 6 home runs so far. Lifetime 2-2 against the Cubs. Made 5 starts. 2.39 the ERA against Chicago for Bud Norris.
Well, last year he lost in Chicago and he won at Houston, and he's been a much better pitcher at home in his career, especially this year. 2-0 with a 2.03 ERA at home. Lifetime 15-13 with a 3.89 at home.
Milwaukee's the home plate umpire tonight. Brothers, Tim Welke, his senior of 10 years. Dale Swaim in his first year managing the Cubs. There's Jamie Cork, former bullpen coach, now the bench coach for Chicago.
We were chatting during BP, and Jamie had not met Dale Swaim before taking this coaching assignment. That's pretty unusual, but he said things have gone really well between the two of them. And now it's Bud Norris ready to go against David DeJesus, one of the newcomers. DeJesus, 30 years old. He played for Oakland last year. He's been with Kansas City most of his career. Cubs picked him up as a free agent in November, signing him to a 2-year, $8.5 million deal to be their leadoff man and right fielder. He has a 360 on base average so far, with a 276 batting average, 1 homer, 9 runs batted in for DeJesus.
A guy who's always been a pretty solid player, good outfielder, hits for a high average, doesn't hit for a lot of power. One of the few Cubs that gives you a good tough at bat. Most of their guys are free swingers.
DeJesus looks at the first one. There's strike one. David had a 10-game hitting streak, but that was snapped yesterday when he went 0 for 5. But during that 10-game stretch, he hit .390. Cubs are 14th in runs scored in a 16-team National League. Pop up near the left field line. Here's the run for Martinez over toward the stands. He reaches up and he snags it.
Bartman. Oh, no, never mind.
One down.
JD settling in there just before he got to the wall, having to deal with some fans, but able to put it away.
Tony Campana is next, the University of Cincinnati outfielder. Always a threat to bunt. Corner infielders are walking in. Campana takes ball 1.
Where you normally play for a guy who can bunt a little bit, you start there and then you move in even closer. He's a very good bunter and he can flat out fly.
Takes that pitch up, and it's 2 balls, no strikes to Campana. Tony had 143 at bats with the Cubs last season. He's from Kettering, Ohio.
He's taking all the way here. Now he'll probably take 2 as he tries to work his way aboard. Doesn't hit for power, so he's thinking about just getting on and stealing a base.
Campana went 2 for 12 for the Cubs on their 0-5 homestand. He looks at strike one. It's 3-1 for Bud Norris. The Astros have won all but one of Bud's 8 starts this season. Bud has not won 4 consecutive starts as a major leaguer in his career. He has a chance to do that tonight. And gets strike 2. Campana, a good man to keep off base with 10 steals in 12 attempts.
Borderline high there, but Bud got the call to run the count full. He's only walked 15 this year in his 50 innings of work.
Now Lee and Johnson are backed up with the 3-2 count. And it's hit in the air, foul. The Cubs going 0-5 on that homestand against the Phillies and the White Sox. Come in with a record of 15-26. They're in last place in the NL Central, 7 games out. They're 8-12 within the division. And the Astros have a .500 record, 7-7 in the NL Central. Flicked up the left field line, but that one goes out of play.
Campana doesn't really change his approach. No matter what the count is, it's almost like the at bat of the entire at bat is 0-2. He just lets the ball get deep. He's trying to punch it the other way. JD Martinez has continued to slide. He's pretty much cozied right up to the left field line. He's playing like I'm hitting.
He is close. That's ball 4. Campana works a walk. He's aboard for Castro now. Dale Swaim has been talking about shifting the top 3 guys in the order. There's the chat session. Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow is going to be chatting, well, in about 15 minutes online with Astros fans. David Gottfried is next to him in the booth. Castro at .313 with 2 homers has 25 runs batted in. And he has 52 hits. That's tied for 5th in the National League. Very, very talented young shortstop. And he could be a leadoff man, but in this number 3 spot, he's done well.
He's Jose Altuve.
Yeah.
Only plays shortstop. Pretty much the identical hitter. Although Jose's exhibited more patience this year.
Campana's running. Here's the throw. It bounces, and he's safe. Stolen base for Campana, number 11 of the season. In 13 tries, the pitch was strike 1.
We talked about Campana's speed, the ability to turn a walk into a double with the stolen base. Tag on the back of the calf after the hands have gotten to the base. Relatively easy call there for Tim Cheetah.
Castro leads the majors among middle infielders in runs batted in with 25. He looks at that one for strike 2.
Yeah, his speed makes him a good candidate to hit at the top of the order, but the fact that he never walks, his on base percentage is basically his batting average. And what's he walk 4 times, I think?
4 times.
That's a bunch of plate appearances.
You bet it is.
I think he's an ideal number 2 hitter because of all the contact he makes, but in their lineup, he's, I mean, he hit him 3rd. There's no problem.
Led the league in hits with 207 last year. Lays off a breaking pitch for 1-2 for Castro. Castro just 22 years old. He became the youngest shortstop in Cubs history. From the Dominican Republic.
Oh, they're the youngest shortstop in Cubs history. Yeah. I thought you were going to say the youngest shortstop in Cubs history to blank. Yeah, just flat out the youngest one ever.
Youngest period, and they have a lot of history. Turn towards second, Campana back.
Tortured history for the most part. Talked about him in the pregame show. 2 hits away from 400. This is his 325th game. A-Rod did it in 325. Boggs 324 games.
Ground ball 3rd. Chris Johnson looks the runner back. 2 out. That's quite a pace Castro is setting in the early years of his career.
Wow. So it was kind of fun to watch CJ there because not only did he look Campana back, but he kind of looked him back about 3 different times to make sure he wasn't going to try to take liberties there and get to third base as he threw the ball across the diamond. Scouting report coming into play. Ryan LaHare has provided very good power for this Chicago team with 10 homers, 21 runs batted in, and a .315 batting average. And it's been very interesting to watch him from afar, looking at box scores as he's put up those numbers.
as a 29-year-old rookie. At 59 at bats last year. Well, he had 136 at bats with Seattle in 08, so maybe he's not classified as a rookie, but never been an everyday player. There goes the Campana to third. The throw not in time, and he steals that base. 12th of the season for Campana, and he got to third anyway on ball one to LaHare.
But really not paying much attention to him there with 2 outs in the inning. And really, why would you? You don't want your middle infielders cheating to tighten him up there at second base with 2 outs and yield in their positioning. But he does get, because of his speed, his ability to get there, that's one of those deals where if you know you can get it, then it's worth doing. You just cannot afford to make the third out of third base. You're already in scoring position. That would get you in baseball detention. Probably at least a week, I would think,
yeah.
Baseball detention for that.
LaHare seemed to have something in his right eye here, and he's still trying to adjust that eye, so it's ready to go.
Campana feeling pretty sprightly down there. Like he might try to steal home. He might try to go Jackie Robinson.
Ooh.
Steal his way around the bases.
That wouldn't make LaHare very happy. Although if you're going to do it, it's better to do it with a left-handed batter. Safer anyway, shall we say. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, LaHare's been a very good find with this Chicago team. And he's done exactly what he had done throughout his career in the minors. Last year at AAA Iowa, he hit .331 with 38 homers, 109 runs batted in. And LaHare's always been behind a big name player like Richie Sexson, Derek Lee, and Carlos Pena at first base. 1-2.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if he's able to sustain this. He's actually hit more than a third of the Cubs home runs. He has 10. They have 29 as a team. They've got the kid Rizzo down in AAA. He's a really good first base prospect. And LaHare can play the outfield, so you may see that in the future. LaHare out in maybe left field once they move Soriano along, and then Rizzo at first base.
They're talking about it now. Pitch is high, and it's 2-2 because the Cubs really are searching for more offense. They're averaging 3.6 runs per game, and it's hard to survive on that. Well, LaHare had reached base in 32 straight games before going 0 for 4 Wednesday night against the Phillies. Rudy Jaramillo, the hitting coach, former Astros hitting coach. 3-2 now. Well, LaHare has walked 22 times. Brian's from Worcester, Mass. Went to St. Petersburg College. He has spent 9 years in the minors. Soriano's on deck. And LaHare lets it go.
It's really,
now it's 3-2.
I don't know if it's unprecedented what he's doing, but it certainly is unusual to be a minor league lifer that's spent that much time in the minor leagues. It'd be one thing to come up and settle in and be a pretty good part-time big leaguer, but to be the main dog in a lineup.
He has tailed recently. And fouls that one out of the mitt of Castro. LaHare went 1 for 16 on this homestand just completed yesterday for the Cubs. But nonetheless, he's accounted for a huge percentage of their offensive production, as JD mentioned earlier. This will be the 8th pitch Norris throws to LaHare. The Cubs won 8 and the Astros 7 in their season series last year. They split the 6 games at Houston last year. And he chases it for a strikeout to end the Cubs' first inning. No runs, no hits. Runner stranded at third, no score.
Efficient dynamics means a lighter
Carlos Lee, Brian Bogasevic, Chris Johnson, J.D. Martinez, Jason Castro, and Bud Norris.
Armstrong right-hander Matt Garza for the Cubs tonight. He's 2-1 with a 2.58 ERA. He's made 7 starts. Been tough to hit, boy. League hitting just 190. Armstrong right-hander Matt Garza for the Cubs tonight. He's 2-1 with a 2.58 ERA. He's made 7 starts. Been tough to hit, boy. League hitting just 199 against him. Absolutely shutting down right-handed hitters. They're just hitting a .154. He's allowed 3 home runs on the year. Fastball, slider, curveball, and changeup for the righty.
As far as the way he mixes them together, that changed dramatically last year with fewer fastballs and more of a mix. He threw 26% fewer fastballs last year. Threw 78% more sliders, 33% more curveballs, 80% more changeups, and it all added up to a 3.32 ERA. JD, that worked pretty well.
This year he's using his 2-seam fastball more in an attempt to get more ground ball outs, create a little movement. But he's again a hard thrower. Averages about 93 miles an hour.
Jose Altuve leads it off at 318 with 2 homers, 13 driven in. And hits the first pitch in the air to center field. Tony Campana waiting. 1 pitch, 1 out for Garza. Altuve was 7 for 18 on the homestand. Now he's followed by Jed Lowry. Jed had a good series against the Rangers. He was joking around the batting cage tonight. He homered yesterday, number 6 of the year for the club leader. But he said, I think that was the ball that I hit about 3rd best in that game. Well, he lined out twice to the right fielder prior to that. So he went 1 for 4, and he has a 5-game hitting streak. 273, 6 homers, 17 runs batted in for Lowry. And that ball, he scalded his 2nd time up. He hit a line drive right to the right fielder yesterday. The home run just barely reached the seats, so I could see why he would say that. Garza's 0-2 against Houston in his career with an ERA of 3.00 in 4 games.
Pitched 2 very good games against the Astros last year. Got no decisions in both of those. Both games went extra innings.
Well, the one in Houston in September had to really stick with him a little bit because he had the game almost tucked away until Carlos Lee tied it with a 2-run homer with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Foul back 1-2. It's time for the Farmers Insurance Report Card now. Jed Lowry has 6 home runs this season, and that has equaled his total from last year. I was asking him how this start ranks with others. He said, well, really, he started better last year for the Red Sox. He said he hit .390 in April, but in May he was involved in a collision, and that took him out of the lineup. Infield shifting around now with a 1-2 count. Shortstop up the middle. Well, they're giving him a bunt down the 3rd baseline, but there are 2 strikes in the count.
And that's why they waited. They waited till there were 2 strikes on to put the shift on. Dale Swain, he's very much into the spray charts, and the Cubs have been shifting like never before this year. It's kind of a trend all over baseball. It's been kind of fun to watch.
Lowry pulls one, a line drive that goes foul. Now, from what we were hearing, JD, Garza has had fielding problems this year, and the Phillies tried to bunt on him with success as he spiked some throws to first base in his last start.
Yeah, apparently he's got a little bit of a thing going. When he fields the ball, has to throw to the bases. Kind of has the yips.
That's something to watch for. Well, the first and second baseman could almost shake hands. They're so close together. Lowry looks at strike 3. Out number 2 for Garza.
Garza able to beat you upstairs with a good fastball because of his velocity.
Travis Buck is next in the number 3 spot tonight. He went 2 for 6 with an RBI in the Rangers series. Travis was in the starting lineup yesterday in left field. There's ball one, and with Jordan Schaefer sidelined, he gets the call in right field tonight with Bogusevic moving to center.
Now with Buck up there, they don't wait till there's 2 strikes. They just leave the shift on.
1 ball, 1 strike. Brad Mills talked about the selection of Buck for the lineup tonight, partly because he has a home run off Garza in the big leagues, but only 2 at bats. He said he also faced him in the minor leagues. There are other reasons as well, not just numbers.
Well, the biggest number is the fact that right-handed hitters are hitting 154 off of him.
That's a big number.
It's not like lefties are wearing them out. They're hitting just 235. But that 154 batting average against for right-handed hitters, if you're the opposing manager, that gets your attention. All lefties on deck.
2-2. And Jordan Schaefer told me tonight around the batting cage he could play tonight. But Brad Mills said before the game yesterday it's probably going to be Wednesday before Schaefer's in the lineup again. 3-2 now. Garza has walked 16 in 46 innings. Garza missed his start. The flu bug has been battling its way through the Cubs clubhouse, and he was a victim of that. Had to be pushed back a few days. It's a shot foul by Buck. And Garza's career is 54 and 55 with a 3.77 ERA. He's drafted by the Minnesota Twins and then traded to Tampa Bay. Cubs got him in a trade prior to last year, and he made 31 starts for them. 2 Hopper out to second. Cardenas over to first. It's a 1-2-3 first for Garza. No score after 1.
On buy tickets for Flashback Fridays at Astros.com. It's scoreless as we go to the second. Here again is Brownie and JD.
Thank you, Greg. Game 1 of a 3-game series. Longtime Cub Alfonso Soriano leads it off in the second inning.
It's scoreless as we go to the second. Here again is Brownie and JD.
Thank you, Greg. Game 1 of a 3-game series. Longtime Cub Alfonso Soriano leads it off in the second inning. Soriano at 270 with 3 homers has driven in 22. He takes a look at the first pitch. It's ball 1.
Pretty good looking pitch.
Yep. Soriano's hit 3 homers in his last 6 games. He's been bothered by knee problems this year. 2 balls, no strikes. He went 116 at bats before he hit a long ball. Takes that one for a strike, and it's 2-1. Soriano has 2 more years to go on his 7-year contract after this year. 8-year contract, rather. Rolled to shortstop. Lowry in. That's 1 out for Norris.
Cubs in rebuilding mode. They love to move Soriano, but nobody's really been interested in taking on that contract.
Jed Hoyer, the new general manager. Theo Epstein at the top of the chart. Ian Stewart came from the Colorado Rockies to claim third base. And Dale Swaim has watched Stewart hit .201 with 4 homers, 13 runs batted in the early going. He had miserable offensive production last year for Colorado, hitting .156, no homers, 6 runs batted in for 122 at bats. He started all but 5 of the first 42 games. So he's getting a nice long shot with the Cubs. 1 ball, 1 strike. He went 2 for 12 during Chicago's recent homestand. It's 2 balls and a strike. Bud Norris said after his last start, "I'm growing up. I guess I'm getting a little older and a little wiser." He said it's something I'm going to take into each offseason to try to make some strides in the right direction. I've got a lot of people helping me. Foul back. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, this could really be his year with the start that he has. 4 wins and 1 loss with a 3.58 ERA, and that ERA could be considerably lower had he not given up the 7 runs in 5 2/3 innings at Milwaukee. Three and two.
Was it Dusty Baker? I think it was Dusty or Piniella, one of those managers that have been around for 100 years. Said the way he evaluates his starting pitchers, he throws out their 4 or 5 best games and throws out their 4 or 5 worst games, and what's left is who the pitcher is.
That's a pretty interesting way of looking at it. Altuve over to Lee.
Basically, what do you give me most of the time? Every 5th day, what can I count on from you?
Anybody's going to have an off day. Adrian Cardenas, 24 years old, born in Florida. His parents were born in Cuba. He was a waiver claim by the Cubs in February from the Oakland organization. Playing second base tonight. 1 for 15. That 1 hit a double.
Originally a first round pick of the Phillies. Started his senior year in high school going 29 for 37.
Ooh.
I don't even want to do the math. That's just a big number. Finished the year hitting 647.
That is nuts.
In 2006, he was Baseball America's High School Player of the Year. You can understand why. As a minor leaguer, he's hit for good average, but not any power.
He came up from AAA Iowa before the May 7th game 2 weeks ago. Made his debut. Played left field, second base. Looks at that one for a ball. That makes the count 2-1. Well, 2 weeks from today will be the draft. Line to right field. Bach. And now he has to chase it down. As Cardenas reaches, looked like he would make the catch as he left his feet right in front of the warning track.
Thought he had it.
Ruled a double.
Got a good fastball to hit, put a good swing on it. Just when I get done saying he hasn't hit for much power, he almost knocks one out of the ballpark, but it looked like Travis had it, and right off the tip of his glove. Maybe left his feet a little too soon. Could have taken another step back, had more room than he realized.
Cardenas with his second major league double. Aboard for Coy Hill. Hill was playing at Double-A for Cincinnati. Jim Riggleman managing that club. Obtained by the Cubs because of a catching crisis. There's strike 1 to Coy. He is 2 for 8 as a Cub this season, and they really have had injury problems, so they reached down and dealt for somebody who had been with them for the last few years. Coy, 33 years old. Been with them from 07 through last year, so they're well familiar with Coy Hill, a switch hitter who came up in the Dodger organization. No balls, 2 strikes. He hit only 194 last year for Chicago.
Cubs going through catchers the way the Astros did last year.
That's a critical position, too.
Well, yeah, because if you don't have one, the ball is just going to go to the backstop all night. Terrible things will happen.
That could be an issue. Tough to stop the running game without a catcher.
Somebody's got to go back there.
Hit the shortstop. Lowry plays it to lead. And it's no runs, 1 hit, 1 man left, no score in Houston. John Kibler ejects Bob Aspromonte. This comes cancer history. May 21st, 1965. The Astrodome scoreboard flashes. Kibler does it again after umpire John Kibler ejects Bob Aspromonte. This comes 2 days after Kibler had ejected Astro manager Luman Harris. Bill Giles was responsible for that scoreboard. And he, of course, has been a longtime owner of the Philadelphia Phillies. And his father, Warren Giles, was the president of the National League. So Dad got to chastise son for that use of the scoreboard.
John Kibler had a good long career as a major league umpire. This probably wasn't his brightest moment. Kibler strikes again.
That would have been an interesting father-son conversation there.
Good thing it wasn't Bruce Fleming. Bruce would have,
would have
climbed the steps of the Astrodome and gone after Giles.
Carlos Lee leads it off in a scoreless game in the home second inning. Carlos, with a .295 average, has 4 homers. He's driven in 20. And 2 career homers for him off Garza in 13 at-bats. Carlos 2 for 11 in the Rangers series, including a homer. He's hitting .316 on this homestand with 2 bombs. He takes strike 1. Garza had the fastest average fastball in the National League last year, 93.7 miles per hour. He struck out 197 in 198 innings. Shortstop Castro takes care of out number 1. That's 4 straight retired by Garza. Brian Bogusevic is next. Bogey filling in center with the injury to Schaefer. It's not anything serious with Schaefer. He had that collision in the outfield with Justin Maxwell. Stumbled over him a little bit. Has a lower leg muscle strain. Bogey, a .223 hitter with 1 homer, has driven in 10. This is his first start of the year in center field. Maxwell has had 6 and Schaefer 35. Showing bunt.
Well, Bogey, you did this against the Rangers too when they put a shift on. Showed an inclination towards pushing a bunt down there. We'll see if Stewart makes any kind of an adjustment. He's tightened up a little bit, but still way off the line.
Chris Johnson on deck.
Yeah, he's going to play even with the bag.
Bogey grounds. And there's the second sacker. Cardenas. 2 down. Chris Johnson bats. And he and I will be meeting at Landrum Middle School tomorrow in Spring Branch at 12:30. He is the Play Green ambassador for the Astros. And I think one of the teachers at Landrum Middle School wrote a winning essay. So we're going to be reading from a book and talking to the kids tomorrow.
Are you going to read the Lorax?
Not sure what we're going to read, JD.
Is the school named after Tito Landrum?
It might be. Ball 1. Bill Landrum. 280 for CJ. 4 homers, 20 runs batted in.
Must be some bugs down there or something.
Got any other Landrums that come to mind?
That's it. I'm done. I'm toast. I'm out.
Okay.
If we're having a Landrum off, we're done at 2.
JD Martinez on deck. CJ looks at strike 1. It's 1-1. Chris is 3 for 15 on this homestand. He's had a nice month of May. 281, 4 homers, 12 runs batted in, 491 slugging percentage. Grounder goes foul. 1-2.
Well, the best fastball in the National League these days, the best fastball in all of baseball, belongs to Steven Strasburg, at least among starting pitchers. Strasburg averaging almost 96 miles an hour. That's average velocity. To sustain that as a starting pitcher, that's good gas, as they say.
It is. CJ fouls it back. The Astros are 9-9 in the month of May. Well, their offense was really chugging along nicely until about 2 weeks ago. Since then, batting average for the team has dropped. A lot of individual hitters, of course, have lost points, and the walk rate has dropped. And they're now 9th in runs scored. They'd like to recapture what they had. 2 balls, 2 strikes. They've won their last 8 games when they've scored 4 runs or more. But they've scored 1 run or no runs 6 times in May. That's tied for tops in the majors. But most teams do go through situations like that. You're just kind of wondering about the St. Louis Cardinals right now. Did you hear anything on the Lance Berkman knee injury today at all?
Yeah, good news. A meniscus, not an ACL tear as was feared.
That is good news.
So, but still probably out around about 6 weeks.
Oh, really? 6 weeks. Cardinals are 22-19 in first place. Liner over Castro into left field. CJ had some topspin on that one. Hit a looping line drive, and it was a good thing. Otherwise, Castro could have caught it. There's the first Astro base runner.
Picked on a hanging slider from Garza, put a good swing on it. See where that spin comes from as that top hand comes flying through.
JD Martinez was 1 for 7 in the Rangers series. 221 for the season, 3 homers, 21 runs batted in. He leads the Astros in walks and runs batted in. But it's been a rough couple of weeks for JD.
I guess that speaks to the Astros offensive struggles more than anything. The fact that JD still leads the club in RBIs, as bad as he's been going here for a fairly extended run now.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's hitting 114 in May, 5 for 44. No.
This game will test you. It will really test you.
2-0. Jordan Lyles was optioned to Oklahoma City after his start yesterday. Anario Del Rosario is in the Astros bullpen tonight to replace him on the 25-man roster.
Astros with an off day Thursday won't need that 5th starter spot until the doubleheader in Colorado, and they can call Jordan back and actually add a 26th man to the roster for that doubleheader. That's a new rule this year.
Two balls and a strike here. JD takes, and it's ball 3. Yeah, and Brad Mills said there's every possibility that might happen, although his days that he starts might have to be adjusted, but he said we'll analyze that as we go along here. And just thinking that that doubleheader is a split doubleheader, I believe, at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock Colorado time. So there's every chance that a transaction might be made after game 1 of that doubleheader to add whoever's going to start in game 2, although they could probably make it before game 1 for that matter, right? You can use your 26th man for both of those games, I assume. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think you can change that 26th guy. I don't think you can have one guy for the first game and one guy for the second game.
Okay. There's a walk to JD. And now Jason Castro bats with runners at first and second and 2 outs.
I mean, I wouldn't think.
Okay, that makes sense. We're learning it as we go because that has never been the rule before this year. Now Castro has this opportunity to strike with 2 outs in the inning. With a 209 average, he has no homers, 8 runs batted in. A hit here could really do a lot for him. Pitcher's spot due up next. Bud Norris on deck. Castro's 0 for 9 on this homestand, 176 for the month of May. Jason did the catching yesterday. Chris Snyder caught Saturday night, hit a homer. That's strike 1 call for Garza. Garza was traded by Tampa Bay for prospects. One of those prospects, Chris Archer, a mid-90s pitcher. You might be seeing him in a Tampa Bay uniform at some point in the future, but
that's all they need. Another need is another big arm in that rotation.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Bouncer just foul. 0-2. For now, this trade's looking pretty good, though, for the Cubs, the way Garza has produced.
There's been a lot of talk about the Cubs moving Garza at the trade deadline. He'd be a guy a lot of clubs would have interest in. They could probably get 2 or 3 really good prospects for him as they go into rebuilding mode.
Yeah. Boy Hill out to say something as Castro flirted with extra bases there. Garza was in the top 10 in fewest homers per 9 innings last year. 0.64 homers per 9. He's given up 3 long balls this season. And that's lifted out of play in on the fist.
He must have gotten to pitch on all the days the wind was blowing in at Wrigley and not the other way.
Yeah. Well, you know, we were hearing from some of the Cubs people that the wind was howling out yesterday. It was a warm day. There haven't been many of those at Wrigley, but they got shut out.
Peavy?
Yeah. That might have something to do with it. White Sox do have some outstanding pitching.
Good pitching stops good hitting, and apparently good pitching stops Mother Nature too. Of course, Peavy, when he gets it going, he can get you beating the ball on the ground.
So the White Sox swept round 1 of their city series there at Chicago. They'll have another round later.
Do they have a clever name for that series?
I don't believe they do. Crosstown rivalry or something like that. Nothing like the battle for the Silver Boot. Fly ball right field. Backing up De Jesus. De Jesus at the wall. Castro. 3-run homer for Jason Castro. Number 1 on an 0-2 pitch with 2 outs in the inning. And it's 3-0 Houston.
Boy, what a time for your first home run of the year. 2 out, nobody on. Garza had retired the first 5 men he faced. Throws another lazy breaking ball, a little slider or cutter intended to get in on the hands of Castro, but it just kind of cement mixes there for him. And off she goes, about 10 rows up.
First home run since July 19th, 2010 by Jason Castro at Chicago. 227 at bats. What a time to break it out again against Chicago. And that has the crowd buzzing with Bud Norris coming up. That's ball one. That was quite an at-bat. He barely missed a double over the bag at first. Then Coy Hill went out to talk with Garza. And he hit that 0-2 pitch high and deep enough to get it out. Now Norris puts it in the air toward right. De Jesus coming in. And the Astros get a 3-run bomb in the second inning from Castro. It's 3 runs, 2 hits. Houston leads Chicago 3-0 after 2. Hits. Think of some of the top rookies that come to your mind in Astros history. What do you think? Who comes to mind?
Well, I happen to know the answer to this question.
All right. Well, if you didn't know the answer,
I have to recuse myself. But well, Bagwell, of course, was a Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So you think Jeff Bagwell.
Joe Morgan.
Joe Morgan. I happen to know the answer to this question.
All right. Well, if you didn't know the answer,
I have to recuse myself. But well, Bagwell, of course, was a Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So you think Jeff Bagwell.
Joe Morgan.
Joe Morgan.
Maybe Cesar Cedeno. Meanwhile, let's go to Bart.
Thank you, Bill. Time for our progressive fan of the game and a very special guest, a young man who is about to celebrate his 7th birthday in a couple of days. Young Tyler Morrison and his dad, Nick, thought what better way to celebrate than bring him to his first Major League game, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He said that's all he wanted for his birthday, go to the Astros.
Are you having fun, Tyler?
Yes.
Who's your favorite player?
Jose Altuve.
Altuve. Very good. You're going to start playing baseball pretty soon, right? Next year?
Yes.
You want to be an outfielder?
Yes.
Well, the great part about this, guys, is that Tyler brought his glove. That's the only reason I agreed to turn my back to the infield, because I know if they hit one out here, Tyler's going to make a play for me. That's your Little League glove.
That's my old Little League glove, yes, sir, back in Martin, South Dakota. So.
Wow. Well, you moved here back in 07 and immediately became an Astros fan.
In 05, yeah. We moved here in 05 and immediately, right off the bat, become an Astros fan. And been coming to a lot of games, watch almost every single one on TV, and he's getting hooked on them this year.
So a new generation of Astros fan and a birthday boy. Congratulations, Tyler. You are the progressive fan of the game. There's stuff in there for you, too, Dad, for being such a good dad. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Bart. There's a strikeout for Bud Norris, whiffing Matt Garza. 3-0 Astros here as Bud gets out number 1 in the 3rd inning. And we go back to that trivia answer. Most hits by an Astros rookie.
GG. 1974, Greg Gross, 185 hits. Also the highest single season batting average for an Astros rookie. He hit .314 that year. And if you're wondering who was behind him, Sonny Jackson, Willie Taveras, and then Jeff Bagwell and Joe Morgan tied. That's your top 5.
All right. Strike to David De Jesus. He fouled out to J.D. Martinez, leading off the game. Norris goes to a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Alex Campana's on deck. One and two for Bud Norris. "15 meetings between these two clubs this year, and the Astros will make 3 trips to Chicago, including the final 3 days of the season there.
And plus a trip to play the White Sox.
That's true. There will be a total of 4 trips.
Spending half the summer in Chicago.
That's not a bad thing. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Get your Sinatra on.
That's a great city to visit. Over the years, many Astros fans have taken those series as opportunities to do a little tourism in that city. Liner going foul. Keeps the count at 2-2. Boston and Baltimore are tied 5-5. They're in the middle of the 6th inning at Baltimore. David Ortiz hit his 10th home run for the Red Sox. Chris Davis, number 6 for the Orioles. The spunky Orioles. Oh, they're becoming a more and more intriguing team to watch now. They're 2 games in front of Tampa Bay for the AL East lead right now. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
I don't know what their payroll is, but I guarantee it's not the same as the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Nope. Well, the Orioles swept the Red Sox at Fenway earlier this month. The Orioles a much better road team, 15-6. So they really seem to have something, including an outstanding bullpen and a lot of home runs. Adam Jones is becoming a big star for them this season. Still 3-2 to De Jesus. Bud Norris 2-2 lifetime against the Cubs, making his 5th career start against them. That was line foul again. The Astros have 34 consecutive starts of at least 5 innings. That's the 2nd longest active stretch in the majors. Jordan Lyles went 5 yesterday, giving up 6 runs. He ran into a 5-run Texas first, but had pitched well in his first 2 starts with the Astros this year. Now back at Oklahoma City.
Pitched well after the first inning yesterday.
Yeah, he did. And a swing and a miss. De Jesus striking out for number 3 of the game.
A lot of it is timing for a starting pitcher. You know, that's a tough draw for a young pitcher to get that Ranger club. And now Bud, he draws the Cubs tonight. They have a very weak hitting club. And that's not to diminish what he's doing tonight or what he may do ultimately tonight. But you'd much rather face this Cub lineup than let those Rangers run out there.
You bet. Neftali Feliz went on the disabled list today, by the way, for the Rangers. Tony Campana drew a walk, stole 2nd, stole 3rd, and was stranded there in the 1st inning. So that's the first move the Rangers have made. They had used only 25 players all season until the Feliz injury. Line drive left. J.D. Martinez charging. He snags it on the short hop, and that's a single for Campana. Well, Tony back to first with 2 outs in the inning, and Castro will bat.
Well, Martinez had shortened up for Campana because he doesn't hit the ball over the outfielders' heads very often. But even with that, Campana able to drop that just in front of J.D., who tried to make a diving catch. And most importantly, able to keep it from slipping by. If that goes to the wall, it's 2, maybe 3 bases.
Starlin Castro comes up now. He grounded to 3rd in the 1st inning.
Pretty good chance it's going to be 2 bases anyway. Campana's speed.
Yeah. He was off and running in the 1st. Cubs are 9th in the league in steals as a team, so he's a big part of what they do. And Castro also with 12 steals. They each now have 12. Of the team's 29, they have 24. Liner left, in for a hit for Castro. Campana takes a big turn. And the Cubs mount their own 2-out rally with Laher coming up.
Castro's just a hit machine. So that's 399 for his career.
Laher worked the count full, and then he struck out. He chased ball 4 back in the first inning. Oh, he had gaudy numbers at Iowa, an OPS of better than 1,000 last year for the season. Fly ball left field. Martinez backing, and right in front of the big wall, he makes the catch. It's no runs, 2 hits, 2 men left, middle of the 3rd inning. Astros 3, Cubs nothing. We go to Greg Lucas.
Actually, he was the key early. It could have been. He stole 2 bases in the first and third innings. He was on, stole 2 bases, but the home run by Castro, of course, the big story in the game, and the Astros lead it 3-0. The activity is about to go to the bottom of the 3rd. The Astros will have the top of the order coming with a 3-0 lead. Here's Brownie and JD. Big story in the game, and the Astros lead it 3-0. The activity is about to go to the bottom of the 3rd. The Astros will have the top of the order coming with a 3-0 lead. Here's Brownie and JD.
Thank you, Greg. With Castro's home run supplying the offense for Bud Norris, he was able to work around a couple of 2-out singles in the top of the 3rd and get Laher on that fly ball to left. And now the Astros come up looking for more with Altuve, Lowry, and Buck, the top 3 hitters, facing Garza here in the home 3rd inning. Altuve hit the first pitch in the air to center in the 1st inning.
Matt getting a little inspiration from the bill of his cap there. He probably has a kind of little slogan or something that he refers to. Maybe a Bible verse. Yeah. That guy for the Marlins.
Right.
Had a Bible verse he kept in his back pocket.
Sure did. Steve Cishek, right?
Yeah.
There's ball 1 to Altuve.
Maybe he's got a scouting report for Altuve on his hat.
That could be it also. Altuve 2nd among National League second basemen in hits, batting average, and on base average.
You'd have to have a lot of hats to go through a year with the scouting report for all the opposing hitters on the bill of your cap.
You bet. Garza's listed at 6'4", 215. Altuve 5'5". Pitch is up, and it's ball 2.
The hanging slider that Jason Castro hit for a home run. That seems to be the trouble pitch for Garza here tonight. Made some mistakes with that slider.
Last year, Garza moved from more of a fly ball pitcher to more of a ground ball pitcher. 3 balls and a strike.
Yeah, that was throwing more 2-seamers. He throws both a 2 and a 4-seam fastball. The 2-seamer will have a little tail, maybe a little sink, and hitters are more likely to hit that ball on the ground.
That's hit to center field. Campana backing on it. 1 out, and twice Altuve has hit the ball to that player.
No food out there. Uh-oh, and here comes the grounds crew running out on the field. Oh.
Well, that was only out number 1. A little premature that time. They're trying to rush this game along. All right, fellas, take a little rest. Now the gates close. They're back behind. And it's Jed Lowry. Lowry struck out looking in the first inning. Mets are leading 4-2 at Pittsburgh. They've played 6. Johan Santana on the mound with the lead. Eric Bedard started for the Buccos. He's gone now after 5. Mets extremely good so far this year, and they are 22-19, despite the fact that many would say, well, they don't have that good a talent. Well, they're hanging right in. They're 3.5 behind Atlanta in the NL East.
If they don't finish 20 games below 500, I'll eat my hat.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy. 2 balls, no strikes. The left side of the infield is wide open for Jed Lowry. Well, Stewart's now going to move off the line and try to plug it up a little bit, but he's not very deep.
He's just reacting to the count. Once it went 2-0, he said, well, there's no way he's going to bunt 2 balls, no strikes. He's looking to drive the ball in that count. So he backed up, moved off the line a little bit further. Now 3-0. He continues to drift back even further.
He's a man on the move. He really has to stay in the count to know where to position himself.
Last year was the year of the pitcher. This year is going to be the year of the shift in Major League Baseball.
Lowry takes a strike. 3-1 to Jed. Travis Buck is on deck. Kansas City leads the Yankees 3-0, bottom of the 6th. Rip foul. Watch out over the Astros dugout there.
Joe Madden probably the first guy to be real aggressive, shifting his fielders, reacting to the new information, the spray. I shouldn't say new information, but there's just so much more of it. I mean, teams have always kept spray charts, but I think just more mindful of that kind of information now. You know, Madden, when we talk to Madden, his line was, hey, we catch line drives, meaning we are better positioned than most clubs.
Lowry hits a line drive, and that loops in for a single. 6-game hitting streak for Jed. That's the perfect kind of way to hit it for a hit over the infielders and add that top spin to get down in front of the right fielder de Jesus. Jed hit his line drives too hard yesterday. They carried out to right field.
Jed Lowry with 6 home runs now, so he's pacing for about a 25 home run season. That's got to be an Astro record for shortstop, does it not?
Oh, yeah, that would be. Dickie Thon
had 20.
Gave that a run. Yeah, he did. Travis Buck worked the count full. He grounded out in the first. Hiroki Kuroda started for the Yankees against Kansas City. There's strike 1. Mike Moustakas hit a home run off him with a man on, his 7th. Felipe Paulino has shut out the Yankees through 5 for the Royals. Well, it's odd to look at the AL East standings and see New York in 4th and Boston in 5th. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Just when you think the Red Sox are getting healthy, they go into a little bit of a funk, but they're playing well again now. They've won 8 of their last 10.
Yeah, you look around at some of these teams and where they are in the standings through the first quarter of the season. It's pretty intriguing. Lowry goes and it's fouled. 1 and 2. Not that will stay that way, but the last few years, it's been a pretty good percentage of the time that teams in position after 40 games to be in the playoffs have converted. Well, this year would be a huge shakeup if Baltimore won the AL East, Cleveland won the AL Central. Not a big surprise if Texas won the AL West, certainly. And then you got the 2 wild cards to deal with. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, I would think that Cleveland and Baltimore would be the bang for your buck winners right now when you compare their payrolls with some of the other top clubs.
Absolutely, yeah. They're getting a lot out of what they have. 2-2 to T-Buck. Ball 3. Travis both times has worked the count full. Jack Lowry's seen a 2-2 count and a 3-2, so the Astros hitters are back into that mode of forcing the pitcher to work harder. He's thrown 53 pitches so far. Lowry's going, and there's a swing and a miss. The throw sails and on into center field. Lowry pops up and hits for third base. Strikeout of Buck was out number 2. Lowry gets a steal of second, and on the error by Hill takes third. Second steal for Lowry this year.
You see Jed going. He's counting on ball 4 or contact here. Gets neither, but he catches a break as it's a horrible throw from Coy Hill. Way inside the bag. Hill just never got set as he had to reach back across his body to catch that breaking ball. With a little bit akimbo as he made that throw to second base.
Hill with his first throwing error. Now a runner at third for Carlos Lee. Carlos grounded to shortstop in the second. Hill had a terrible accident. He severed a couple of fingers off his throwing hand. Operating with a, I believe it was a chainsaw or some kind of jigsaw in the off season a few years ago. Fingers had to be surgically reattached, so that causes further problems with the throwing. There's ball 1. Bogusevic is on deck. Carlos fouls it away. It's 1-1. Carlos is among those big home run hitters against the Cubs with 38 in his career. Third among active players in homering against Chicago. And he's hit .342 with runners in scoring position. One and two.
Well, he'll go into protect mode here. Just try to shorten the stroke. Tries to use the middle of the field in these situations.
Well, it's the Nationals 2, the Phillies nothing after 7 in Philadelphia. So it's on between those two clubs. Ian Desmond hit his 7th home run of the year. It came off Kyle Kendrick, the Phillies starter. Gio Gonzalez went 6 shutout innings. He now has left the game for Washington. Nationals have won the last 4 ball games at Citizens Bank Park, and they've won all 3 of their series against the teams in their division this year. 6-2 in the NL East. So there's another surprise team this year.
Pitching is just so good. It's going to be awfully hard for Tony La Russa, who's going to manage the All-Star team this year for the National League, because he won the World Series last year. And whoever helps him pick that club to whittle down the starting pitchers. So many starting pitchers having great years in the National League.
Boy, there are. Yeah, you can take that whole National starting staff and not be in bad shape. So liner to left field, in for an RBI single for Carlos Lee. 4-0 Astros as Lee drives in his 21st to tie Martinez for the club lead.
I think maybe Dale Swain's going to tell Coy Hill not to go to the mound anymore today.
Yeah.
He goes out there and boom, Castro hits a home run, goes out to visit this time, and Carlos Lee hits a rocket for an RBI single.
Both times the Astros scored, they had 2 outs and 2 strikes on the hitter. Castro hit an 0-2 pitch for his homer, and Lee a 1-2 pitch for his single. Bogusevic grounded to second in the second inning. So the steal by Lowry really helped set it up for the Astros, and then the throwing error. Showing Bud, he takes ball 1. Chris Johnson on deck. 4 runs on 4 hits for the Astros. tight for a ball. That makes it 2-0.
And this is just exactly how Brad Mills hoped things would play out here. Not only the runs he's putting on the board, but because they are making Garza work so hard. 60 pitches as he works here in the third inning, and the Cub bullpen right now is a mess. And I don't mean just with the gum wrappers and the seeds and tobacco. I just mean in terms of, I don't think Dale Swaim has a lot of confidence in too many of the arms down there right now.
His relievers are 5-11 with a 4.5 ERA. 8 blown saves in 14 opportunities. Carlos started to take off a little bit, take some liberties. It's ball 3. 3-0 to Bogey. Chicago area player. Cubs starters are 10-15, but their ERA is a respectable 4.00.
Green light him.
Good time for it. He takes a strike. 3-1. Cubs are beginning a 21-day stretch. They'll play 19 games in 6 series in 6 different cities. In the next 3 weeks, they travel almost 7,000 miles. 3-2.
Is that a lot? Seems like it, eh?
Yeah. Seems like it because they go Chicago, Houston, Pittsburgh, Chicago, San Francisco, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, back to Chicago. The Astros are beginning some longer trips coming up. The next trip takes them to LA and Colorado. That's a walk. Second of the night for Garza. And the Astros can really crack through here if Chris Johnson can deliver. 2 men on. And CJ singled to left field and scored in the second. Chris worked the count to 2-2 and hit a liner to left.
Well, if you're a gambling man, you'd be doubling down on the Astros right about now.
Yes.
4-0 lead. Bud Norris on the mound. Garza out of sync.
Dale Swaim is striding to the mound. Garza, his last 4 starts had a 1.75 ERA.
Who invented talking into the glove? Kurt Schilling?
He might have been the first guy. One of the first guys I can remember.
I would change that if I were the manager. I'd adopt a new rule. You must remove the glove from the face when talking to me.
Well, it's been a rough start for the Cubs. Chris Bosio is their pitching coach. Pat Listach, their third base coach, back home. He said he had a lot of people who wanted to stay up and talk last night when I got to town. Now it's Chris Johnson waiting. J.D. Martinez on deck. And strike 1. Toronto leads at Tampa Bay 3-2. They're in the last of the 6th inning. Kyle Drabek on the mound against Jeremy Hellickson. B.J. Upton hit his 3rd home run. Yunel Escobar, number 2 for the Jays.
Which Upton is having the better year this year?
Well, I think Justin's been hurt, so I'm not sure.
So BJ's hitting .286, 3 home runs, 14 driven in.
Chris Young has also been hurt for Arizona. That club has been spiraling in the wrong direction for Kirk Gibson. 2 balls and a strike. First base umpires Chris Cuccione. Arizona 19-23 right now. 7-12 at home. In the air to center. Campana with his back to the infield, still going up toward Towles Hill. CJ, 3-run homer for Chris Johnson, number 5. A bomb into the patio.
Wow. That's an extra venti right there, boy. That is really big.
He's now the club leader in runs batted in with 23. Hit that one a long way.
Fastball channeled right down the middle and boom! Great extension, big high finish, and a big high fly.
And a pair of 3-run homers for the Astros tonight.
3 out of 3 with runners in scoring position. And if you're doubling down earlier, you might want to redouble.
Oh yeah, 7-0. Strike to Martinez.
Talking to Bob Brenly before the game today about the big center field here and how few balls leave the yard out there. Not many over the years. Randy Wells up in the Cub pen.
You're right. A hitter can be very proud of hitting a ball to that part of the park for a home run. 1-1.
CJ, he might want to try to get on flex cam here in the ballpark later on. After that.
Tap to the third base side foul. 1-2 to J.D. Martinez. Travis Wood starts tomorrow night for the Cubs against Jay Happ in a matchup of lefties. Meanwhile, there's Wells warming up. The batting average against Garza was 199 when this game started. He had allowed only 31 hits in 45 1/3 innings. In the air to right. De Jesus waiting. To end it in the Astros third, and the second Houston 3-run homer of the night comes from Chris Johnson. Number 5 of the year, giving him 23 runs batted in and lifting the Astros on top 7-0 after 3. Greg?
Well, that certainly gets us past the 4-run story where the Astros have won their last 8 when scoring 4 or 1 runs. They've added to that. They've also won quite consistently when they've hit multiple. So dominant, it doesn't even matter what the scoreboard is. He will attack. In the fourth, and to tell you all about it, let's
Starts coming into this one. That is tops on the Astros club, but as you know, it takes one 12-run game or whatever to blow that up this early in the season. Soriano leads it off 7-0 Astros. He grounded out to short earlier. And there's strike one. That's the second 3-run homer by Chris Johnson this year.
Astros have had 7 base runners tonight. They've all scored. That's good return on your investment right there.
Know it. Foul back, no balls, 2 strikes.
You know, the anatomy of a big year for a pitcher. Obviously, you have to pitch well, but you need a little help. You need some good run support. You need solid bullpen work behind you. Could all add up to a big win season for Norris as he shoots for number 5 here tonight.
1-2. Yeah, frequently if you peruse the 20-game winners in the major leagues, they're the guys with very good run support. Two balls, 2 strikes. Cincinnati leads 4-1 over Atlanta in Cincinnati. They're in the bottom of the 8th right now. Drew Stubbs has hit a pair of home runs, giving him 5 for the year. Lowry on a sharply hit one hopper moves to his left to take care of out number 1.
Yeah, I would keep an eye on the Reds. I get the sense they're getting ready to make a move here. The injury to Berkman, the Cardinals have struggled lately. Cincinnati's starting to play well. They just won a series from the Yankees over the weekend. I would not be surprised to see them lead this division here in fairly short order.
Ian Stewart grounded to second in the 2nd inning. Well,
they're only half game out now.
Yeah. With the Cardinals languishing there at 22-19 with that Berkman injury and the others that they've had. Chris Carpenter, who knows when he'll be back, maybe June.
And not just take the lead, but maybe take control of the division.
But this division could be for grabs if nobody really takes on a winning streak of any proportion. 1 ball, 1 strike. Aroldis Chapman now has been moved into the closer's role by the Reds. That may help them. But the Astros are only 4 games behind St. Louis. 2 balls and a strike. I think their best hope is to have that situation exist for a while now. And if they could get to 500 or a little bit over, that's a pretty enthusiastic type situation for the young Houston club. Tends to pump everybody up. Three balls and a strike. Cardenas on deck. You know, some of those years, like we'll say 73, the Mets didn't have that much of a record when they went to the World Series. And there's a walk to Stewart. Sometimes the team will just kind of hang around in the hunt and then realize, hey, there's nobody really taking charge of this division. Greg?
Astros baseball on Fox Sports Houston is being brought to you by Men in Black, in theaters May 25th.
It's about umpires. Men in Blue, sequel.
Yeah.
The Life and Times of John Kibler.
Adrian Cardenas doubled to right earlier off Travis Buck's glove. There's strike 1. Cardenas hits a fly ball to center field, out number 2 here in the 4th inning. We apologize for technical difficulties tonight. It's been a very interesting day around here technically, and a real challenge for our crew, and we appreciate everybody for hanging in there. Hill is the batter now. Hill grounded out to shortstop in the 2nd inning.
Solar eclipse messed everything up.
That must be it. Did you see some of those shots?
Pretty, eh?
Around the world. I think it was Japan. Yeah, gorgeous. He swung. There's strike 1 to Hill. Mike Leake has 8 excellent innings under his belt for the Reds tonight. He's given up 2 hits and 1 run against the Braves, surviving a Juan Francisco homer, his 4th. And the Reds lead at 4-1 in the 8th, as we mentioned. That's a shot into right field. Buck coming over to field it. Stewart going first to third. And the throw coming into second on the single by Hill. Hit number 4 for the Cubs.
And Jeff Baker's going to hit now for Matt Garza.
Baker's had 34 at bats. And he's hit 206.
Well, you get a comfortable lead like this as a starting pitcher. You obviously feel like you should win the game, and now your responsibility is to go as deep in the game as possible. If you don't walk people and keep the ball in the yard, it'll be very difficult for the Cubs to come back on Bud tonight.
Baker's 0 for 4 pinch hitting. There's strike 1 to him. Garza in 3 innings tonight allowed 5 hits, 7 runs, all earned, walking 2, fanning 2. He threw 72 pitches, 42 strikes.
About 10 of those he'd really like back.
Yeah.
A couple in particular.
Baker puts it in the air to right. Travis Buck waiting. No runs, 1 hit, 2 men left. It is 7-0 Astros. Kevin Eschenfelder and Steve Sparks in the studio. Wells has made 2 starts since being promoted from the minors. He's 0-1 with a 6.23 ERA, and he'll be making his first relief appearance for them this season, JD.
Yeah, Randy Wells, a guy we've seen a little bit over the last 2 or 3 years. More of a finesse type pitcher, doesn't blow you away with his heater. He's a converted position player. Catcher, I believe.
Yes, drafted as a catcher, you're right.
Blow you away with his heater. He's a converted position player. Catcher, I believe.
Yes, drafted as a catcher, you're right.
A whole bunch of those guys floating around. Fastball about 88 miles an hour, slider, curveball, and changeup. So he really has a starting pitcher's arsenal. And he has to use all of his pitches to be effective. Has to keep the ball on the corners, down around the knees. Imagine that.
Jason Castro, the batter, taking strike 1 as he does that. Wells just rejoined the Cubs yesterday from AAA Iowa. He was with them earlier, April 22nd through May 3rd. Made 2 starts. Went back to Iowa and now has bounced back again. 27-31 in the majors.
Yeah, that's the old deal, right? You'd ask a guy, geez, it can't be any fun bouncing up and down between the minors and the big leagues, but you know, it's better than the alternative of just sitting in AAA all year.
I bet it is. It was a 38th round pick in 02 by the Cubs. Castro fouls it 1-2. Then he was taken by Toronto in the Rule 5 draft in December of 07. Came to the big leagues very briefly with Toronto in 08, but they couldn't hang on to him, and they returned him to the Cubs, who had made use of him. They made very good use of him in 09 when he was 12-10 with a 3.05 ERA and 27 starts for them. Castro looks at ball 2. Last year, Wells made 23 starts for Chicago. Spent some time on the DL with a right forearm strain. So it sounds as if with their beleaguered bullpen picture, he's going to be asked to stay in this game for a few innings. They trail 7-0 in the fourth. 3-2 the count. They used 3 relievers yesterday. They've lost 6 in a row. That's what happens during a losing streak. That bullpen can be abused sometimes. That's a bit of a strong word, but nonetheless, heavy usage. Sometimes you keep going to the guys in the pen, too, in May and June, and they don't come back for you in August. Their arms are dead. That's a leadoff walk. Castro's aboard. Third walk of the night for Cubs pitching.
Yeah, that's where the depth in the organization really pays off. If you need to shut a guy down for a little while, give him a rest. If you've got a quality arm down on the farm, you can bring up. I remember Bobby Cox used to do that in Atlanta a couple different occasions. They basically have a line change. You have to send 3 guys out, call 3 guys up, and not miss a beat.
Well, he knew something about how to manage pitching, that's for sure. Bud Norris, who hit a fly ball to right, now is squaring and now not squaring. And he again squares, strike 1.
When that pitching is named Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz, pretty easy to manage that group.
You bet.
Put their ball in the locker and shake their hand after the game.
Miami leads Colorado 6-4. They're in the top of the 7th at Miami. Troy Tulowitzki hit his 5th for the Rockies. Giancarlo Stanton, number 9 for Miami. He's starting to explode now, Giancarlo. Fisher now 22-19. Colorado in a downward spiral, 15-25. The Astros will visit Colorado. JD talked about that doubleheader on the next road trip.
Yeah, Rockies winners of just 2 of their last 10 ball games. Jamie Moyer starting tonight in his 50th Major League Stadium.
Wow. He's up there with Milo.
Yeah, knocking on the door.
Rockies are 4-14 in May, and that would be at that pace their worst month in team history for winning percentage. And the Marlins are the other way. They're 14-5 in May. Altuve on deck. Norris takes the ball low. Matt Garza had given up 8 extra base hits and 156 at bats, and the Astros torched him for a pair of 3-run homers. They had hit 3 3-run homers this season and hit 2 tonight in consecutive innings.
Well, they had their first 3 home run game on Saturday against the Rangers.
They came into this game having been out homered by their opponents 44-30.
Got a little case of long ball fever here.
It's got to feel pretty good. The big inning has come to Minute Maid Park, and with 2 outs and 2 strikes both times on the hitter. Fly ball to shallow right. Cardenas over inside the right field line. 1 out. Altuve bats next. Twice he's hit the ball to Campana in center field. Jose getting a shot to lead off again with the Schaefer injury. With that 369 on base average, that's a good number for the guy who bats first in the lineup. And the Astros notes something interesting today, that Jordan Schaefer had the 4th best on base average among all National League leadoff men.
Well, there are only 8 leadoff guys who had enough at bats to qualify. So that's one of those stats. You can tweak those stats any which way you want them. But I mean, to me, there are a lot of different factors that make for a good leadoff man. And Schaefer certainly brings speed to the table. He's giving you a good patient at bat. get that on-base percentage up around 350. That'd be good.
Yeah, wouldn't take a lot. He's 331 now. If he'd go on a surge and do that. Strike to Altuve. It's 0-2. Even though the Astros lost 2 of 3 over the weekend to the Rangers, they're 3-2 on this homestand. They swept Milwaukee in the first 2. One hopper to third. Stewart rifles to second, and then the turn. That's beautifully done by Cardenas. Really good turn of the double play to end the 4th inning. 7-0 Houston. A couple of men on, 2 outs. The Astros have a pair of 3-run homers. They lead at 7-0. And Castro hit the first 3-run homer in the 2nd inning. With a couple of men on, 2 outs, 2 strikes. The pitch was 0-2 to him. He hit it out to right field. And then in the 3rd inning, Carlos Lee, an RBI single to make it 4-0. And 2 batters later, a 3-run shot by Chris Johnson. And again, the Astros get the 3-run homer. And they lead at 7-0 now. We go to the 5th inning, and Bud Norris, with that 7-run lead, will face the top of the lineup to Jesus, Campana, and Castro batting. David DeJesus fouled out to J.D. Martinez outside the left field line in the 1st inning, and he struck out in the 3rd. Campana on deck as the Cubs try to come back. The Cubs have been outscored now by their opponents 193 to 149 this year. Norris delivers ball 1. The month of May has been a very good one for the Astros on the mound with that 2.87 staff ERA, 2nd best in the majors in May. Two balls, no strikes.
Situation calls for a fastball right over the heart of the plate here. You don't want to walk anybody. There you go.
2 balls and a strike.
Castro kid, he just loves to hit. He'd be like 5th in the order. He'd be up on the top step with his helmet, his bat, ready to go.
2-2. Now full count for Norris.
Saw Castro call for that high fastball there, trying to get De Jesus to chase. He wouldn't go up after it. Again, he's one of the few Cubs that gives you a patient approach at the plate.
Foul ball, keeps it at 3 balls, 2 strikes. Campana waiting next. Dale Swaim taking over as the Cubs skipper, and of course it's going to be a transitional time for this Chicago team. They have some big salaries on the books. And with Theo Epstein and the job he did with the Boston Red Sox, general manager Jed Hoyer working under him, you can anticipate a fair number of changes down through the next few years.
They're just trying to get younger and cheaper right now, much like the Astros, trying to stock that farm system with an eye towards 2 or 3 years down the road. And again, that's why I think Garza would be attractive for them to move for the return they could get. Soriano, that's going to be a tough one because all the money he's still owed. They might have to eat a whole bunch of that to move his contract, and ultimately may do that.
That's a walk to De Jesus. 3rd of the night for Norris.
Giovanni Soto, the catcher, he's been around a little while now, making some decent coin. You could see him moved at some point.
Especially if they get some of the young catchers healthy. They've used 3 different rookie catchers this year. One of them, Steve Clevenger, hit very well, but he got hurt. He's beginning his rehab assignment in the minors tonight. Campana has walked and singled to left. Chris Johnson moving in tight. Tony looks at strike 1.
Astros tighten up on the corners for him, and the outfield swings the other way. All the outfielders towards left field. JD Martinez in left, very shallow.
Boy, he is. Tap to Lowry. Lowry charging. Throws quickly to lead. Just nips him. 1 out. De Jesus into second. That was close at first. Campana always hustles.
He's one of the faster guys in the league. So there's no way you're going to get 2 here. And I guess the option was, could you have nailed that lead man at second base? Jed Lowry thought not, so he went across the diamond and barely got Campana. Yeah, would have had a tough angle thrown back across his body to try to get to Jesus at second.
Very tough. That transfer had to be perfect for Jed. Any little bobble in Campana would have been safe. Castro singled to left in the 3rd. He's 1 for 2. Fouls it back. There's strike 1 to Starlin Castro. The Cubs have made 10 moves on the 25-man roster in the last 5 days. Castro has more multi-hit games in the National League since the beginning of last year than any other player. Hunter Pence is second. De Jesus aboard with 1 out. Strike for Norris. That makes it 0-2 for Bud. Texas is at Seattle later tonight. It's Yu Darvish and Felix Hernandez.
Ooh, what a pitching matchup.
Yeah. Giants lead 3-1 at Milwaukee. They're in the bottom of the 6th. Buster Posey hit his 5th. Reaching for it, Castro swings and misses, striking out for the 2nd out.
All right, just beautiful execution there by Castro and Norris working together to finish off Starlin Castro. That's a great 2-pitch breaking ball. Start at the bottom of the knees, break it down towards the toes. Again, an aggressive swinger.
Well executed strategy for the fourth strikeout. Brian LaHare struck out in the first inning and then hit a warning track fly ball with 2 men on in the third. The Angels are at Oakland later tonight. Angels trying to get rolling. Strike to LaHare. Oh, it's been a rough beginning for them. And Oakland's won 4 of the 6 between those two this year. But Albert Pujols is hitting .440 against the A's. Strike, and it's 0-2 to LaHare. Travis Wood and Jay Happ in a matchup of lefties tomorrow night. Astros live at in the third inning. He then stole second. Nothing. Lowry, Buck, and Lee are due up against Randy Wells in relief of Matt Garza. Jed Lowry extended his hitting streak to 6 games with his single in the third inning. He then stole second, took third on the error, and scored. There's strike 1 to Lowry. Lowry's 1 for 2 tonight. In that Padre Cardinal game Greg referred to, it's 1-0 San Diego at St. Louis, bottom of the 7th inning. Clayton Richard has the shutout going against Jaime Garcia. Foul back. Clayton Richard came off the bench in the extra inning game for the Padres yesterday. Bud Black had utilized all of his position players. Richard delivered a pinch and from first on an extra base hit, the game-winning run. Starting pitcher, and how often does that happen? Starting pitcher comes off the bench, gets a pinch hit, scores the winning run, starts the game the next night. Foul back.
Got a chance to be player of the week, at least for the Padres.
And is pitching a shutout so far. For the 16-26 Padres, that's one of their big thrills of the year.
Greg was talking about the minor leagues. Brett Wallace hit another home run yesterday. He's on a little bit of a streak.
Yeah.
At 6 now. Fernando Martinez hit his 8th.
I'm just chatting with Enos Cabell, who looks at the Astros prospects during this season. And he is high on Fernando Martinez, who has very good numbers.
Another 2-hit game for Jimmy Paredes. Has his average up over 320 now.
Yeah, he's come a long way, hasn't he, in the last couple of weeks? After a modest start. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Good to see Carpenter get on track and have a good outing last night. That was his second outing at AAA. Liner to right. Lowry got that stroke down. The line drive hits to right field. 2 for 3 tonight.
He's not missing right now. You give him something to hit, he's going to drop the barrel on it. He was on pretty much everything in yesterday's game.
Sure was. He's in a good spot, as they say. Travis Buck is 0 for 2. You know, both these managers have done some tweaking with the top guys in their lineup recently. There's strike 1. Dale Swaim has talked about it with his club. He may shake things up a little bit. It's about that time in the season, just past the quarter mark. The managers will do that if things are not clicking offensively with their team. Usually they don't want to panic by making a whole lot of changes early. But it's not early anymore. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, it gets late for some clubs more quickly than others. Probably feeling fairly late in Chicago these days.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't come into this season with high expectations.
No.
I mean, and he really doesn't have that many options unless they have kids down on the farm that are knocking on the door.
2 balls and a strike. Rizzo's the main one they talk about in Chicago. Anthony Rizzo, the first baseman, and ironically, Jed Hoyer was the general manager in San Diego when Rizzo was first brought to the big leagues, and Jed admitted in a story that he prematurely brought him up, should have waited, and things didn't go well for Rizzo. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The numbers are compelling, though, for Rizzo right now. Carlos Lee's on deck. Chris Capuano and the Dodgers are underway at Arizona. No score in the bottom of the first. Little roller up the first base line, staying fair, and there's the toss out at first. Lowry into second on out number 1.
A nice play there by Randy Wells. We talked about him being a converted catcher, good athlete. He makes a heck of a play here, and a little swinging bunt up the first base line. He has to make a decision whether to let it go or try to make a play on it. I'm going to give that one about a 11% success rate for most pitchers in the league. And there's a bunch of guys are going to step on that thing, kick it, try to pick it up and drop it, flip it over the first baseman's head. That was well done.
Sure was. Buck took evasive action to the outside of the baseline. Carlos Lee singled on a run in the 3rd inning. He's 1 for 2. Carlos has hit .341 since the 23rd of April. He's now a .302 career hitter at Minute Maid Park. That's 3rd on the all-time Houston list. Lance Berkman number 1 at .307. Jeff Bagwell number 2 at .303. Carlos is 4th in homers among Astros in this ballpark and 3rd in runs batted in. He looks at ball 1. Berkman has 537 runs batted in this ballpark. Bagwell second with 310. It's going to take a while for somebody to catch Lance. That pitch makes it ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes. It's a final in Philadelphia. Washington 2, Philadelphia 1. Gio Gonzalez going to 6-1 with a 1.98 ERA. beating Kyle Kendrick.
Talk so much about Strasburg. He might not be the best pitcher on his team.
He might not. 2-1. Sean Burnett got the save, his second.
Zimmerman, that kid's really good.
He is good.
Detweiler's been good.
Pitches ball 3. 3-1 to Carlos. Washington began the night a game and a half behind Atlanta. Philadelphia in last place, 5 behind. Phillies have now slipped to a game under 500 at 21-22. Cincinnati finished off Atlanta 4-1. Mike Leake getting his first win after 5 losses, beating Mike Minor. Sean Marshall got his 8th save. Rolled foul.
Leake also went deep in that game.
Yes, he did.
Drew Stubbs hit a pair. Cozart hit his 4th.
Interesting to see with Marshall saving this one. But yesterday it was Chapman who really does take over the closer role for Dusty Baker.
Well, I would say using both.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, because you get criticized for doing that, but still say you should do it.
But that way you can keep one fresh.
Wow. To me, that's the ideal situation early in the year. If you can find 2 or 3 guys that you can entrust in the late innings with leads, whether it's the 8th inning, 9th inning. I mean, I think that would be the ideal situation.
Ground ball at shortstop. Castro. Lowry tried to create a diversion, scrambling back to second.
Not only did they had a play on it, but Castro opted not to take it. Lowry was off with the crack of the bat and then realized, not good. And Castro had a shot at him. I mean, he's got him dead to rights at second base.
Sure did.
That's just a brain cramp.
Didn't even look.
Yeah, I saw him, but it didn't register.
Now it's Bogusevic batting.
It's been the knock on Castro is the mental side of the game. He's not quite up to snuff. Mike Quaddy benched him a couple of times while Mike was managing, just trying to shake him up a little bit mentally, make sure he stayed in the game.
1-0 to Bogusevic, who came from a Chicago area school to go to Tulane. The Astros taking him with a first-round pick. 2 balls, no strikes. Many of the draft projections have the Astros going for Reiner Cruz. Let's make the count 1-1 now for Reiner Cruz. I was just looking at something on Reiner Cruz. No, they're not going to go for Reiner Cruz. For Mark Appel. Ground ball to shortstop. Castro throwing to first, and it's no runs, a hit, and a man left after 5-7. Nothing will keep it right here.
Mark
To get on the scoreboard, it's Soriano, Stewart, and Cardenas. The Cubs had not been shut out all season until yesterday when the White Sox blanked them. And now as they try to get on the scoreboard, it's Soriano, Stewart, and Cardenas in the 6th inning. Alfonso twice is grounded to the shortstop, Jed Lowry, tonight. And there's ball 1 to him. Soriano is insisting his knees are fine to maintain everyday status, but he's had some problems with them, according to reports. 1 ball, 1 strike, kind of dragging a leg around at times. And with Soriano having a couple more years left on that contract, the Cubs are certainly hoping he can be healthier than some think that he looks right now. He's 36. Last year he drove in 88 runs. He hit 26 homers. It's a 2-ball, 1 strike count. Earlier this season when he was looking for his first home run, and it took him more than 100 at bats to get it, he had a slugging percentage of .304, and his manager Dale Swaim said the fastballs were getting too deep. Fouls that one back, and it's 2-2. A year ago when he hit the 26 homers, he set a club record with 10 in the month of April. Only Soriano, Albert Pujols, and David Ortiz have 10 straight years with at least 20 homers. This time strikeout number 6 for Bud Norris.
Yeah. Futile wave at the slider is becoming a theme tonight.
How much better do you think Bud's slider is this year?
I don't know. I thought it was really good last year.
Okay.
I don't know that it's any better.
Ian Stewart grounded out and he walked. Stewart was a first-round pick of the Rockies in '03. He was the 10th player drafted.
Bud didn't have a winning record last year, but he pitched well. He had a good ERA.
Right. And I was going to make that point earlier when we were talking about run support, but we moved on to something else, and it just seems that the tables have turned with the run support. He was 6-11 with a .377 ERA. Chris Johnson guns it over the first, and maybe this year the whole situation will be reversed with him getting better run support, although his ERA is lower than it was last year also. And that includes a 7 earned run start for Bud in a little over 5 innings, 5 2/3 at Milwaukee.
Yeah, there's always an element of luck involved when you try to analyze a pitcher. But you know, if you're keeping the walks down, keeping the ball in the ballpark, and striking men out at a high rate, that usually means success. His walk rate is down a little bit from last year. His strikeout rate up a little bit, not too significant. Batting average and balls in play about identical.
To left center field. So run for Bogusevic to get there and make it a 1-2-3-6 for Bud Norris, and a 7-0 lead for the Astros.
And Joe Mather as the left fielder.
And looks like Joe Mather has taken over. And left for Soriano.
And Joe Mather as the left fielder.
Cubs have been talking about using Joe Mather a little bit more as they are in a search for offense. Former Cardinal. Mather has 3 homers and 45 at-bats. You might see his name in that starting lineup a little bit more often. Chris Johnson leads it off for Houston in the home 6th inning. He's 2 for 2, a single and a 3-run homer for CJ. Martinez and Castro to follow against Wells.
Yeah, no double switch here. Wells stays in the game. Just a straight up exchange for Mather for Soriano out in left field.
Well, with his 7-0 score in the 6th inning now, it's a chance to get some different players into the game and rest some of the people who've been playing quite a bit. 1 ball, 1 strike. It's not exactly giving up, but a lot of managers do this to apportion the playing time. You know, you take a guy who's been on the bench most of the time, give him a couple of at-bats at the end of a game. 7-run ball game right now, and many managers will do this sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's nice not for the player to get some time in the field, maybe get a couple at bats as opposed to just that late game pinch hit.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Chris.
CJ single and a home run so far tonight. And sometimes you can just tell watching a hitter take pitches how well he's seeing the ball, and you get the sense of CJ tonight. He's pretty well locked in up there. That's a pitch. If he's scuffling, he might offer at.
3-2 now.
Everything about the way he took that pitch and his body language is telling Randy Wells, I got you figured out, pal. You're not going to fool me here. Unless you throw me that slider. just when he had it all figured out.
Strikeout number 1 for Wells. Right to the bottom of the strike zone. J.D. Martinez walked and scored in the 2nd. He hit a fly ball to right in the 3rd. Pittsburgh beat the Mets 5-4 in Pittsburgh tonight, tagging John Rauch with a loss. There's strike 1 to Martinez. Mike McHenry hit his 3rd home run. Joel Hanrahan picked up save number 10 for the Buccos. They're 20-22. 1 game in front of the Astros if the Astros win this one. It's 1-1. Mets got 4 in the 2nd, and it did not hold up as the Pirates came back to beat them 5-4. Dodgers got 2 in the 2nd at Arizona for Chris Capuano. Matt Trainer hit his 1st homer. And the Cardinals now are ahead 2-1 after 7 on San Diego. Popped up Castro. 2 down. And it's the Astros. Castro. Jason coming up next. 3-run homer and a walk for Jason. Oh, Jason going deep in this game. And Chris Snyder hitting one out Saturday night. The Astros have had a very good last few days of production from their catching platoon. Bud Norris is on deck. Castro to left field. That backs up the new left fielder, and Mather is back for the catch right in front of the big wall to make it 6 straight retired by Wells, and after 6 still 7-0 Houston.
Padres. That game is also in the 8th. Final scores are 3-1. San Francisco has an edge over Milwaukee. That game is in the 8th. And as Brownie mentioned, the Cardinals have taken a 2-1 lead over the Padres. That game is also in the 8th. Final scores earlier: Cincinnati beat Atlanta 4-1. It was Miami 7-4 over Colorado. And in a game that's now in the bottom of the 2nd, Los Angeles leads Arizona 2-0. Over in the American League, 6-2, Toronto over Tampa Bay. That game is in the bottom of the 8th after a 3-run top of the inning for Toronto. The Angels and Oakland will be later. Boston has an 8-6 advantage over Baltimore. That game is in the 9th. It is 6-0 Kansas City leading the Yankees. That's also in the 9th, and Texas and Seattle later on. Our game right here is comfortably on the Astros side. Here's Brownie and JD.
Thank you, Greg. It's 7-0 Houston, and Bud Norris has worked 6 shutout innings. He's thrown 96 pitches, 65 have been strikes. Coy Hill leads it off in the 7th for the Cubs. He singled to right in the 4th. He's 1 for 2. Pitcher spot due up next. There's strike 1.
About a 1-2-3 7th and take it to the house for Bud. That would be a good solid night. 7 innings of shutout baseball.
In the air to center. Bogusevic back in left center field. That's 1 down.
Randy Wells is going to stay in this game and hit for himself.
Randy swings the bat pretty well. He's 1 for 2 this season. Has 6 major league runs batted in. Phil Boudreau has been checking past draft years in Major League Baseball. Come up with a list of people who have been drafted #1 from high school and college. There's strike 1 to Wells. Here are 4 high school #1 overall picks who never made the big leagues. The Yankees, Brian Taylor, 91.
Yeah, he got hurt.
Yep.
Bar fight, I think.
That's correct. Steve Chilcott of the Mets in 66. Matt Bush of San Diego in 04. Tim Beckham in 08, Tampa Bay. That's the worst nightmare for a major league team. Strikeout number 7 for Bud.
Well, there's an old phrase in the clubhouse: if you're scared, get a dog.
Yeah.
Can't play the game scared, and you can't draft scared. You got to just, whoever you think the best guy is, you got to go for it.
It'll be very interesting 2 weeks from tonight to see what the Astros do. They also have the 41st overall pick. They have a compensation pick for losing Clint Barmas through free agency. De Jesus is 0 for 2 with a walk. Norris delivers strike 1. Kevin mentioned earlier that in the last start for Bud Norris, he threw 117 pitches. And they were good ones. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run as he beat Milwaukee Wednesday 8-3. He's over 100 now for the night. No balls, 2 strikes. 16,895 have passed through the turnstiles tonight at Minute Maid Park. Big weekend in attendance, as you know, here. Slash through the left side. De Jesus with a single, on for the 2nd straight time. Hit number 5 for the Cubs, and it's Campana coming up.
4 singles. The only extra base hit, the double that Cardenas had back in the 2nd, and that was a ball that probably should have been caught out in right field. Not been a lot of solid contact off Norris here this evening.
Campana walked, stole 2nd, stole 3rd in the 1st inning, was stranded there at 3rd base. Then he singled in the 3rd inning, 1 for 2. He looks at a strike. Dale Swaim has Campana, Reed Johnson, Joe Mather to play center after trading Marlon Byrd to Boston for reliever Michael Bowden, who's in the Cubs bullpen tonight. Boston club's been racked by injuries this year. losing Jacoby Ellsbury, so they picked up Bird in the deal. 1 ball, 1 strike. Miami beat Colorado 7-4. Mark Burley squaring his record at 4-4. Beating Jamie Moyer, who's 2-4. Heath Bell got his 6th save.
That matchup was just oozing with craftiness.
Yes,
Burley and Moyer, my goodness. How many starts Mark Burley's made in recent years where he's had the better fastball?
Yeah, not many. Felipe Paulino. Kansas City shut out the Yankees 6-0. Paulino going to 2-1. He beat Hiroki Kuroda, who's 3-6. Rolls foul, still 1-2.
Nice to see Paulino having success. So frustrated here with the Astros. He was frustrated. The club was frustrated. All the fans were frustrated. He had such promise, such a big arm, but couldn't stay healthy. And finally getting his chance. And he pitched well for Kansas City last year.
He sure did. He's been hurt again this season, but he's bounced back well. His ERA now is 1.42. He went 6 2/3 tonight. Struck out 8. Pampano whiffs. That's number 8 for Bud Norris. And it ends the top of the 7th inning with no runs, a hit, and a man left. 7-0 Houston in the 7th. And now Kevin and Steve. One hit, walking 1, fanning 1. Marwin Gonzalez strolls to the plate to pitch hit against Randy Wells in relief of Matt Garza. Wells has worked 3 scoreless innings so far, giving up just 1 hit, walking 1, fanning 1. And the switch hitting infielder Gonzalez will lead it off. Wells has retired 6 in a row. Marwin at 222 has 12 hits and 54 at bats, including 1 homer, 2 runs batted in. He's 3 for 11 pinch hitting, including a home run. Looking at strike 1. Bud Norris, with quite a night of it, works 7, giving up 5 hits, no runs. Walking 3, fanning 8.
So that's 26 innings, 1 earned run in the month of May.
Ooh. Strong bid for pitcher of the month with 1 start to go.
Jeepa.
1 ball, 1 strike. Inario Del Rosario has just joined that bullpen tonight from AAA Oklahoma City. And is warming up. Norris lowering his ERA throughout this month each time he goes out. Fly ball right field headed for the corner. And sliding. No, it goes up into the seats. Good effort by DeJesus.
Might have been a home run at Fenway. been able to curl that one right around the pesky pole.
Well, Jesus gave it a shot. Here it is.
Yeah. Gotta love the effort, selling out, giving up the body in a 7-0 ball game.
You bet.
Checking all the parts, make sure everything's where it belongs. Relocate those bone chips.
Yeah.
Get those moved around there.
We'll update Bud Norris's ERA for you. Began the night at 3.58. There's a ball, and it's a 2-ball, 2-strike count. It's currently 3.14.
Pi
R squared. 109 pitches for Norris, 77 strikes. And there's a strikeout for Wells. Number 2 of the night for him. But he's saving the bullpen by stretching it out in relief of Garza.
Tom Marwin out in front of a good changeup. Probably his best pitch. If you have Cody Ross on your fantasy club, you might want to make an adjustment.
What happened?
He's got a broken bone in his foot.
Oh.
He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks.
Yet another Boston injury.
Well, and with Neftali Feliz being on the DL now for the Rangers, we'll be curious to see how aggressively or not they pursue Roy Oswalt, who threw for them the other day.
Good point. Castro with a grounder. Goes out Altuve.
As each pitcher gets hurt around baseball, Roy's agent probably. Here comes a little leverage my way.
Yes. And Ariel Del Rosario warming up with 2 outs here in the 7th inning. And it is Lowry. Lowry's 2 for 3 tonight. 2 line drive singles to right field for Jed. Jed started the night with a .354 on base average. Infield shifts around. And he takes strike 1. Seattle got a run in the bottom of the 1st off Yu Darvish and leads Texas 1-0 after 1. King Felix on the hill for the Mariners. That one's hit well to right field. De Jesus backing. Lowry has hit another one. Jed Lowry with number 7. And the club leader has hit 2 in 2 games. 3 straight hits in the game for Lowry. It's 18 runs batted in for Jed, and it's 8-0 Houston.
Jeff Luhnow doing an online chat tonight. Assuming it's done. It started quite some time ago, early in the ball game, but you wouldn't fault him if he was crowing a little bit over his trade for Jed Lowry, the way this kid's swinging the bat.
Not at all.
Heck of a move by Luhnow to get Jed Lowry away from the Red Sox. Boy, has he performed well.
And the Astros have 3 homers in a game again for the 2nd time in 3 games. Travis Buck tops 1 foul, strike 1. They hadn't had a 3-home run game all year until Saturday against Texas. Now they've had 2 in the last 3.
Now, general managers will tell you that the trades they prefer are the ones that are good for both clubs. Like the guy you bring over helps you, and the guy you send over helps the other club. But you have to take some small measure. If I won that one when the guy you traded over is in AAA,
right,
and your guy's hitting home runs and on a pace to set the club record for home runs for a shortstop.
Yeah. Well, the Red Sox have gotten very good production from Mike Aviles at short. He's hit 8 homers. 1 and 2, but not from Mark Melancon. He's been in the minor leagues. And Lowry could settle in for a while for the Astros at shortstop. For Jed, it's just a matter of staying healthy. He's certainly played well before, but has had that unfortunate occurrence of injuries many times. 2-2 to Buck. And the Astros also got Kyle Weiland. He was their 5th starter to open the season. 3 balls, 2 strikes. I hope to get him back in the rotation later this season. But yeah, what GMs will frequently say is, well, we want to be able to make another deal with that club, so we don't want to have it be one-sided in our favor because they won't trade with us again. Buck takes the walk.
But, you know, it's not like they traded him an injured guy.
No.
You know, the Red Sox did their due diligence. Melanson pitched well for the Astros last year, and he probably will end up pitching well for the Red Sox down the line as well.
That's right. It takes a while to judge trades. Carlos Lee singled in a run in the 3rd and later scored. He's 1 for 3. Milwaukee has just come up with 2 in the bottom of the 8th to tie the Giants 3-3. Still batting. Ryan Braun hit his 12th homer. Up the middle for a single to center field for El Caballo. 2 for 4 tonight. Batting average continues to hover around the 300 mark. He was at 295 when he started the evening. That's 8 hits for Houston. Brian Bogusevic is 0 for 2 with a walk. Wells trying to get out of this 7th inning after he got the first 2 outs easily. He delivers ball 1. Of the Astros 8 runs, 7 have scored on long balls.
There's a man that could use a long ball.
He really could. He has 1.
Opening day.
Well, he could be so important to this offense. As the night began, he had a .314 on base average, .314 slugging percentage. Foul back, and it's 2 balls and a strike.
Yeah, the performance just hasn't caught up with the ability yet with Brian. I mean, he's got a lot of talent. He's strong. He has enough power to hit home runs in this league.
Chris Johnson's on deck. The Cubs have stranded 8 runners. The Astros have left 1. Strike, and that makes it 2-2 to Bogey. Boston came back to beat Baltimore 8-6 in Baltimore. Andrew Miller got that win in relief, beating Kevin Gregg. 3-2. Alfredo Aceves got his 10th save. Three-two, 2 on, 2 outs. The runners will be moving. Buck at second and Lee at first. In the air, and the center fielder Campana comes over. Left fielder's calling for it, Mather. And in the 7th, the Astros get long ball number 3 of the night. It comes from Lowry. Number 7 for Jed. 3rd long ball for the Astros again for the 2nd time in 3 games, and they extend their lead to 8 tonight. Downs at first to play shortstop. Gonzalez at short for Jed Lowry. Lowry 3 for 4 tonight. A homer, 2 singles, 2 runs scored, a steal. Downs at first for Carlos Lee. Lee was 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored. Del Rosario just returning to the Astros tonight from AAA Oklahoma City for his second stint with Houston this season. JD.
3-4-5 due up for the Cubs here in the top half of the 8th inning. That means Castro, LaHair, and Mather, who came in to play left field for Alfonso Soriano. They're going to face EDR, and they're going to look at sinkers and sliders.
Castro singled to left in the 3rd inning. He's 1 for 3. And there's strike 1 to him. The Astros bullpen has a 2.75 collective ERA. That's 3rd lowest in the National League. It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Del Rosario pitched once here against the Cardinals May 6th. Gave up 1 run in 2 innings. Slider clips the corner. That makes it 1-2. Astros lost that game 8-1. Now he comes in with a healthy lead to protect of 8 runs. Anario pitched 15 times at Oklahoma City with a 4.24 ERA there. Last pitched on Friday night at Reno.
Good try.
Sure was. 2-2.
Slider out there, then came back with the 2-seam fastball. Trying to run it back to the outside corner. Just missed it. Castro showing tremendous patience in this at bat. He's keyholing. He's usually up there hacking.
Grounds that one foul. Well, the Astros have 15 new players from a year ago at the 40-game mark. This is now the 42nd game. So a big turnover in their club. The pitching has been much more effective to the 40-game mark this year than it was a year ago. Foul ball. In fact, their home ERA is under 3, 2.96 coming into this game tonight. That's the biggest difference because they've scored just about the same number of runs they had, and they've outscored their opponents for the season.
Try.
3-2.
Astros with the Cubs again tomorrow and then Wednesday before heading out to Los Angeles for the weekend, where the Dodgers are Major League best 19-4 at Dodger Stadium.
Ooh.
Well, in their home ballpark, because nobody else plays that many games at Dodger Stadium. 19-4 at home.
In the hole, and there's a sliding try by Marwin Gonzalez, but no chance to get him. Just a chance to show off his range. Gave it full effort. Castro gets his 2nd hit of the night.
Yeah. No real need to make the throw here, but it was kind of fun to watch anyway. Gonzalez is a superior defender. He has good range and a good arm. So if they don't show the whole play, you could make it to the highlight reel right there. Stop the play, and he's on the highlight reel.
True. And Downs comes off the bag. Now we get a pinch hitter for LaHair, and it's going to be one of the catchers, Lolly.
Okay, now they just announced that he's hitting for Wells.
Yeah, I think they may. We'll check back to see that, but Wells already batted, right? So.
Yeah, Wells hit in the 9-hole, right?
Yeah,
when he hit.
He's already batted, so that's not right. He's pinch hitting for LaHair. And rolls out to second. Lolly retired, 1 out.
Can you put LaHair on our all body part team?
Absolutely. He belongs on there. He's on there.
Barry Foote. Don Gullett.
Raleigh Fingers.
Ed Head. Jim Bottomley.
That's Joe Mather. Talked about Mather before, the fact that he has some rather intriguing potential here in the power department. There is strike one to Mather. And we might get a chance to see more of that. He's had 45 at bats, 3 homers, and that gives him a .533 slugging percentage because he mixes in 3 doubles as well. 1 ball, 1 strike. Mather's 29 years old. The Cardinals drafted him in the 3rd round in 01. He's from Idaho. That one runs in on his hands and he fouls it for a 1-2 count. The Cubs did not have a home run by any of their outfielders until Mather hit one in their 22nd game of the year. Cubs are 3rd in the National League in homers. 13th rather. That's a long way from 3rd. 13th.
Yeah, they're not getting home run production from anywhere except from LaHare, really.
One hopper, Chris Johnson. 2 outs. And now Ian Stewart comes up. Stewart's 0 for 2 with a walk. Kyle Drabek in Toronto down Tampa Bay. In Tampa Bay 6-2. Beating Jeremy Hellickson. Drabek now 4-4 with a 3.27 ERA for the Blue Jays. Dodgers lead 2-0 at Arizona after 3. Quite a game for Scott Van Slyke yesterday with a big 3-run homer. First major league homer in a pinch hitting role off Mark Zepchinski of the Cardinals in the late innings, and that proved to be the game winner. Andy Van Slyke's son.
Well, that's the Dodgers. That whole team are sons of major leaguers. In spring training, Don Mattingly had a lineup out there. Had 7 guys whose dads played in the major leagues. Anthony Gwynn, the Sellers kid, Hairston.
2 balls, no strikes.
And Tony Gwynn Sr. apparently is part of a group trying to buy the Padres.
Didn't know that. Yeah, that sale never went through, did it?
No.
Giants are batting in the top of the 9th, tied 3-3 at Milwaukee. It's 3-0 to Stewart. Del Rosario can give the other guys in the bullpen a night off if he can finish this one out. And what the manager and pitching coach love is not even having to warm up anybody else in a game like this. 3-1. Reiner Cruz worked a couple of innings yesterday. Fernando Rodriguez worked 1. Wesley Wright had an inning. Matt Downs tossing to Del Rosario for the 3rd out. No runs, a hit, and a man stranded. Middle of the 8th inning. 8-0 Astros. Meanwhile, Randy Wells stays in game to play first base for the Cubs after pinch hitting for LaHare and grounding out. So it's Lally at first, and meanwhile, Randy Wells stays in for a long duration relief performance. Chris Johnson taking strike one as Wells already has 4 innings under his belt. CJ 2 for 3 tonight. A single in the second, a 3-run homer in the third.
It's a long performance, but it's no Zip Zabel.
What did he go? 18?
Came in the first and pitched to the 19th.
Early 1900s?
1915.
Zip Zabel.
Came in relief. 2 out in the first inning, pitched the final 18 in the third. And his opposing pitcher, Jeff Pfeffer, had a complete game, went all 19. Now, he was the real workhorse.
Yeah, he was. That's long relief.
Just a little bit different back then.
18 2/3, that is long relief. One ball, 2 strikes. These days, a long man might go 2 innings in a National League game. Usually the manager pinch hits for him. But tonight, this is something that Wells is doing that should really help the Cubs bullpen going forward.
This is more the traditional role of the long man, to come in a fairly lopsided game early and just stay in the game and pitch innings, and who knows, give your team a chance to come back, but save the bullpen. A lot of times that guy is a swing man who's also used as a starter. It used to be, you'd see that 5th starter sometimes. With off days, he'd start and then maybe transition to the bullpen for 10 days or so before a need for another starter came up.
Full count now to Chris Johnson. Chris has seen a lot of pitches tonight. He struck out on a 3-2 offering in the 6th inning. Randy Wells 3-3 against Houston with a 2.89 ERA. And he gets a strikeout. It's number 3 of the night for Randy.
The difference between a good breaking ball and a bad breaking ball. Garza threw him a lazy breaking ball in the second that he hit to left field for a base hit. He jumped all over a fastball for the home run, but Wells has finished him off with 2 very good sliders moving off the outside corner and down below the knees.
J.D. Martinez is 0 for 2 with a walk. That's strike 1. Jed Lowry's 7 home runs leads National League shortstops this season. And Bud Norris should be 4-0 for the month of May with a 0.35 ERA. One and 1.
Astros record for relief innings. Dave Justy threw 9 innings in relief in 62 against the Cubs.
Rolled behind the bag at third. Here's Ian Stewart throwing on the run. Very good play to get Martinez.
Stewart hasn't done much with the bat yet for the Cubs, but he's a solid defender down there at the hot corner.
J.D. Martinez just can't buy a hit. Ball like that, not mishandled at all. Stewart makes a fine play on him to get him for the 2nd out of the inning, and now it's Castro batting. 3-run homer, a walk, and a warning track fly ball to left for Jason. Second baseman comes in, Cardenas. On over to Lally, and it's a 1-2-3 8th inning for Wells. We move to the 9th, 8-0 Astros. Several others did too. Damon McGavick, I think, in view of the fact that Kevin and Steve had to head for the studio a few blocks away after showing up at the ballpark, and several others did too. Damon McGavick, I think, was at the truck and headed for the studio, and there were others who made that transition. Mike Uguccione also was here and wound up downtown, a little further downtown by the George R. Brown Convention Center at studios. So we've had a lot of people scrambling today, and out in the operations center, as you indicated, it's been a very, very unusual day of it. But the bottom line is the fans get to see baseball. We go to the 9th inning now, and it'll be Cardenas due up first for the Cubs against Del Rosario, trying for a combined shutout with Bud Norris. The Astros have pitched 3 shutouts this season. Castro reached on the infield hit to open the 8th inning, but then Del Rosario got the next 3 on grounders. Cardenas doubled in the 2nd. He's 1 for 3. And that's the only extra base hit for the Cubs of their 6 hits tonight. One ball, no strikes. One and one to Cardenas. Cubs have had 18 consecutive road games with a double to start the season. And if they get one tomorrow night, that'll tie their high since 1921 to open the season. But that double was tainted somewhat, as JD mentioned. That one rattles around behind the plate. 2 balls and a strike.
Oh, somebody working hard to find that factoid on the Cubs.
You know that.
That's not one you really pay that much attention to. 18 consecutive games with the double.
Not your garden variety stat. That's toward the left field corner and getting down and then bouncing into foul territory and then out of play. And there is a double. Cardenas has both of them.
One to right, one to left. Young guy having a nice night. 2-seamer running down and away. Puts a nice swing on it. And fair by about a foot.
Coy Hill comes up now. He's singled to right in the 4th. He's 1 for 3. 7 hits for Chicago. Cubs trying to avoid being shut out for 2 straight games.
Well, see, fans are very calm because it's an 8-0 game. But if we had a promotion where the fans got free donuts with the shutout, you know how rowdy they'd be right now.
You know it.
Just want to throw that out there, any of you donut people.
Strike makes it 1-1. There are plenty of those out there. You know that.
The one we talked about the other day back in the Dome when they had free beer if Mike Schmidt struck out or something like that. That's the only one I've ever heard targeted at an individual. The Fulmer night at the ballpark.
Yes.
Probably can't bring that one back.
Yeah, that's not too workable today. That's a hit into right field. Cardenas to third, stop sign there from Pat Listash, and the throw's cut off by Downs. 1st and 3rd, nobody out.
Can you imagine the tension if the donuts were on the line right here? The Cubs making a little noise here in the top half of the 9th. Enough so that Doug Brocail is going to jog out and have a chat with EDR. And Fernando Abad is going to start to loosen up in the Astros bullpen. Got to get 3 outs before they get 8 runs. You kind of like your chances, but got to be prepared just in case things get a little squirrely.
Abad is warming up with a purpose. Randy Wells had a Herculean relief effort tonight. 5 innings, allowing 3 hits, 1 run. Walking 2 and fanning 3. That's just a superb job out of the bullpen by Wells.
He almost had a quality start in relief. Just
Reed,
1 inning shy.
Reed Johnson's a pinch hitter for him. Strike 1 to Johnson. hitting .250 against right-handed pitching this season. .211 overall, 1 homer, 7 runs batted in, and as a pinch hitter, 3 for 11, including a homer, driving in 2. One of those in the center field mix, usually playing against lefties. Runner takes off for second. As that one goes to center field, that'll get the Cubs on the scoreboard. And they get first to third on Hill, who was moving on the pitch. Pinch RBI single for Reed Johnson, and it's 8-1. That's 3 straight hits for the Cubs.
Mills is going to make a move.
8th RBI for Johnson this season, and that hastens this move to the bullpen.
The next 2 hitters for the Cubs are left-handed hitters. So he wants to get a bat in here. And again, you know, it's not like he doesn't feel like EDR could finish this game off. But the one thing he doesn't want to have happen is the Cubs to get on a bit of a roll here and force him to go to the guys that he normally uses to preserve leads late. He wants to give Lopez a complete night off. He doesn't want lineup. He doesn't want Myers up. So he's going to make this early move to the bullpen and get the left-hander in here. And see if he can take advantage of that matchup with a couple left-handed batters coming up.
DeJesus and Campana as Abad heads for the mound. Well, the Astros got 3 in the second. They added 4 in the third. So with that 7-0 lead, Bud Norris took it 7 innings. So Jay Happ will be on the mound tomorrow night looking for win number 4 of the year. Happ 3-3 with a 4.96 ERA, and Travis Wood will be coming up from AAA Iowa to start that game for the Cubs. And Wandy Rodriguez, another lefty, goes against the Cubs, and right-hander Jeff Samardzija Wednesday night here.
Boy, Samardzija's been good this year.
He sure has.
Yeah. Talk about fastball. He's got some giddy up.
It's been a good move for the Cubs to convert him from reliever to starter. Samardzija checks in with an ERA of 3.00 for 8 starts. He's struck out 53 in 51 innings with a .232 batting average against him. As we've watched Abad these last few times, it's obvious that he's working quicker. And the influence of Doug Brocail seems to be a very positive one on Fernando. I don't know if he's throwing his fastball more, but it seems like that to me, JD.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to, get a hold of some charts. The thing I like about him mostly is his tempo is improved. A little bit more aggressive in his demeanor out there.
Yeah. And certainly working more often. He worked Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And now back on the mound Monday. DeJesus has walked and singled. 1 for 3 tonight. And Abad has 6 consecutive scoreless outings. Here's ball 1 to DeJesus. He came in Saturday with a 5-4 lead in the 6th inning and a man on base, and got the pinch hitter for the Rangers, Mitch Moreland. So he's teaming with Wesley Wright to give Brad Mills a lefty-lefty combo in the bullpen. Usually it's Fernando earlier in the game and Wesley later. 1 ball, 1 strike. But if Brad can feel that he has 2 successful lefties, and he could choke off a rally, we'll say, in the 6th inning and then another one in the 8th using the 2 different guys. Now he's really going to have a nice combination in his bullpen. One and 2.
Left-handed batter so far, just 3 out of 16 against Fernando. It's a 188 batting average.
In the air, foul, and headed for the seats. Out of play, it remains 1-2. Abad pitched just twice when the season began for the Astros before he was optioned to Oklahoma City and recalled in late April on the 27th. He's been used with pretty regular type patterns. Doesn't sit for many days at a time. There's a looper into right center field. That'll be in for a hit, make it 8-2. Bogusevic gets it back into second on the single by De Jesus, giving him his 10th run batted in. Hill scoring, and Johnson going first to third. And Campana will be next.
Well, that's the thing about baseball. You can't run out the clock.
No.
You have to get 27 outs. Probably one more base hit from somebody else getting up in the Astros pen.
Campana has a walk and a single. Fouling that one, strike one. 4 consecutive Cubs hits here have them on the board with 2 runs. Pressing for more with Castro on deck.
Weird night. The Astros have been out hit 10-8 but have a 6-run lead.
Cubs have stranded 9. The Astros have left 3. And the Astros have hit 3 long balls. Roll foul, 0-2. Oakland leads the Angels 2-0, bottom of the 3rd in Oakland.
More bad news for the Angels. Vernon Wells will have surgery on his thumb.
Oh,
expected to be out a couple of months.
That's a strikeout, and it's out number 1 of the inning. Strikeout number 9 for Astros pitchers tonight. Starlin Castro has 2 of the 10 hits for Chicago. Brad Mills does not want the lefty Abad to face him.
I didn't even know we had somebody else. That happened in a hurry.
It's like maybe Wilton Lopez got up very quickly.
Wow.
Really quickly. Might have had, what, 5 pitches in and relief there?
No.
Well, he's galloping in as he always does from the bullpen. He'll get 8 more pitches from the mound. And with that lightning quick pitching change, the Astros now will move on to their hard-working right-hander. He'll be appearing for the 23rd time. That's tops on the club.
He was warmed up yesterday, but did not come into that ball game, and I was a little bit surprised when he was up yesterday that they were contemplating using him in that game. A game the Astros were down significantly, and now with a big lead, they're going to run him out there. Millsy does not want this one to get away.
No, sir. And the way Lopez is throwing this year, he's had just terrific results. And facing one of the top young hitters in the game in Castro. Runners at first and third, 1 out. Wouldn't he love to finish this one with a double play ball?
Well, that's what you hope, that it's efficient, that it doesn't take him too much to finish this inning off. Don't want to have him make a whole bunch of pitches in this, what seems like a very comfortable lead. It's always more comfortable up here than it is in the dugout. That's the thing. When you're the manager in the dugout, there's a tendency to think along the lines of worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. And Lopez comes in with a 3-0 record at 1.85 ERA. And he's walked 1 and fanned 19 in 24 to third innings.
I'm sure what Millsy's thinking with Abad's proclivity to give up home runs. And what if Castro pops one on Abad here?
Sure.
And all of a sudden, it's a 3-run game. Now I got to get my closer up.
Castro has singled to left and to short. Johnson's at third with De Jesus at first. Inside ball 1.
I don't know what's going to happen in this confrontation, but fairly typically with these two, it would be over in a hurry. The way Castro likes to swing the bat and as aggressive as Wilton is attacking the strike zone. You wouldn't anticipate too many long at-bats between these two guys.
Lopez gave up a run in his one inning Saturday against Texas. Fly ball to right field. And here comes the run in by Buck and the hold by the base runners. 2 outs. Just not deep enough for Pat Listash to send Johnson, and the run is not meaningful in an 8-2 game. And Blake Lally comes up. Lolly's a pinch hitter in the 8th inning, grounded out. Lolly's 28. He just turned 29 about a week ago. He's from Gibsonia, Pennsylvania. Signed as a free agent in 06. Went to Gardner-Webb University. Last year at AA Tennessee, hit .287, 9 homers, 52 runs batted in. Runner takes off for second without a play. De Jesus into scoring position on strike 1. Giants and Milwaukee are in the 10th inning, tied 3-3.
Another rough one for Tim Lincecum yesterday.
Sure was. He got hurt at home plate.
Yeah.
Trying to tag a runner.
Rough on the mound and then got whacked at the plate. Only pitched 4 innings.
That's out to right center field. Buck coming in for it. That's in for a hit. Looked like it got up in the lights. 2 runs are going to score to make it 8-4 now on Blake Lolly's 2-run single. Buck came in for it, and then he stopped and shied away, and it must have been because that ball was up in the lights. Either that or he saw he could not make the catch, and he just pulled up on it.
It looked like he got in the lights on him. Yeah. Completely lost that ball.
Yep, well, he shied away. Joe Mather bats. In an 8-4 game, that's 11 hits for the Cubs. That's the first major league hit for Blake Lally. It's only his 3rd at bat. Mather cranks one to right center. Buck back for this one. Bogusevic is there. Buck calling to put it away. And the Cubs put together a 4-run 9th inning on 5 hits. That was loud. No errors and a man left. And the final score is 8-4. Bud Norris going to 5-1 this season and 4-0 in the month of May with a 0.35 ERA. Chris Johnson a big part of this one with a 3-run homer. Jason Castro had hit the first 3-run homer of the night. And the Astros go to 19-23 with this 8-4 win. Matt Garza, the loser, is 2-2. Just another fine night for the hitters with the 3 home runs for the 2nd time in 3 games. The Astros postgame show is coming up next, and the final take coming your way right after this.